good morning, good day, and good evening. I am, as always, your host, Brody Robertson, and today we have the person in every SIG you can possibly think of, or if not in the SIG, they're at least in the discussion thread somewhere. Welcome back to the show, Neal Gompa, Code and Kudo. How's it going?
Well, it's going great. This time, we have not scheduled it where you're doing this at bloody midnight. No.
That's true.
This time, this is a reasonable hour, right?
Yeah, it is.
You didn't trick me.
9:52 a.m.
So it's 8:22 p.m. over here.
Mm-hmm.
Also, seriously, Australia and its stupid time zones. What made them decide to go back to having this crazy time zone setup that they had in the 90s? I remember them going to, okay, we're just going to have 3 time zones, and they're going to split the country evenly. And now we're back to 3 time zones plus 2 more that are just like sideways.
Yeah, don't forget. Yeah, we have daylight savings in certain states as well, not all of them. So, yeah. Also, so for anyone who doesn't know, we have 30-minute time zones. So the along the middle, so Northern Territory doesn't respect daylight savings, so they're always plus 9:30. I'm in South Australia, so that is plus 9:30, except when it's plus 10:30. And then the rest of the country doesn't acknowledge daylight savings. I thought Queensland did. Wait, is this map wrong? Maybe they got rid of it. Maybe they did something sensible. But for some reason, so
you sensible in time zones with when you have half-hour time zone offsets, sensible does not enter the equation.
What if I told you that there were unofficial 45-minute time zones? So along certain highways, truckers will respect a 45-minute time zone. See, this is how I felt when you were talking about your dual fiber.
Look, man, I don't have dual fiber.
Oh,
I said I might.
Fiber. Oh, you might be. Right.
Right. I have no idea if I can get it. This is just my cable company. So my main connection is fiber, and I have a backup cable connection. My cable company keeps pitching to me fiber, and when I keep putting my address in the system, it says you can't have fiber. And so I'm in this Schrodinger's mode of being marketed something that it doesn't exist. So
that's great.
No.
Well, something you do have, your new framework. How's that going for you?
Oh my gosh. So I've been doing this off and on for like about a week now. I was previously using a really old Linux laptop that's got like 8 gigs of RAM, 4 cores, 128 gigs storage. It was so small I could barely store Chromium on there and have to build and Linux kernels to build code. I was deleting stuff just trying to make everything fit. I was like, all right, I am doing so much crap. I need a machine that's actually powerful at home, and let's see if I can get something I can travel with. So first thing is, the Framework 16 is phenomenal. It feels great. I also was crazy. I got the Rainbow Vomit version. That means I've got rainbow colorways on the side cups, and I've got an RGB keyboard on the thing. I have not yet figured out how to configure it. I am going to figure that out, and then I'm going to do crazy things with it, especially with Plasma 6.1 being able to support mapping the color accent to the RGB. That's going to be fun.
I did hear about that, yeah.
That is absolutely going to be fun. I am looking forward to that. But this thing is heavy. It is almost 6 pounds. I cannot carry this around. So this is staying at home, and it's probably just going to move around with me while I'm walking around the house, but it absolutely is not traveling with me. It is too heavy. But I've been very pleased with how easy it has been to bring everything up. Having all the hardware work has been really nice. It's also interesting going back to a non-widescreen aspect ratio on a screen.
What is the aspect ratio on it?
I think it's 3:2.
Oh. Okay, I thought that screen looked a little bit odd. Yeah, it is. Huh.
Yeah, I think it's 3:2. It's been almost, oh gosh, what was it, 15 years since I've had a computer screen that wasn't 16:9. Like the last time I had one was 5:4. It was 1280 by 1024. It was a Dell Ultra Sharp monitor that I got with a Dell Dimension 5100C, I want to say. I don't remember, but it was a Windows XP Media Center computer, and I had the old fancy like IR Blaster and XP Media Center stuff, and I had it plugged in with a TV tuner that connected out to cable TV, and I had it doing the DVR thing and all that stuff. But it did come with an LCD monitor. It was my first LCD monitor, and it was 5x4. But that was the first and last computer. That was the first and last computer screen until now, where I had something that wasn't 16:9 for a flat panel. Because I think it was shortly after that everyone got onto the HD craze.
Yeah.
And so we went from having square and more squarish aspect ratios to fully cinematic ones.
What, like with the...
And of course...
the, like, ultra-wides? Is that what you're talking about? Or yeah, okay.
Yeah, well, so we went from... So ultra-wides are the newest.
Right,
but like, but originally, like, when we went to the HD thing, where they were talking about HD TVs and whatever... They went to widescreen.
Yeah.
Remember, 15 years ago, ultra-wide was not a thing yet.
No,
ultra-wide has only been a
15
thing.
years ago, yeah. Okay, sorry, I was like 10 years old then. I was 11 years old.
Yeah. Well, look, I'm so old, I remember CRT TVs. Like...
We had a CRT TV, but I didn't know what CRT was back then. We just had an old TV.
I had CRT monitors, VGA cables, and everything. I did it analog back then. But yeah, like, this framework gives me kind of echoes of the time when in the early days. And I think I like it. I like having a screen that isn't cinematic, because for document work and for code stuff, it's a lot nicer. I know a lot of people, what they do is they do the dual monitor thing, and then they have a second monitor that's rotated portrait to kind of make up for it. But I don't have the space.
That's fair.
Like, I upgraded to an ultra wide this last year. So now I have a 1080p ultra wide, so it's 2560 by 1080. But it's also VRR enabled and high refresh rate.
Ooh.
Which I have been super scared to use that full time. Because because it's so good, and I feel spoiled when I go to something else if I stare at it for too long. And so I've just not been turning it on. I've been turning it down. Although the other side effect is that the computer isn't as loud when I'm at 60 hertz as opposed to 165 or 200. This fair. Monitor can go up to 200 hertz. So, but I have to plug it into DisplayPort, and I don't like DisplayPort because stupid little prong things. And yes, I know that there are cables that don't have them, but that doesn't change the fact that I don't like them.
So that
but
one,
overall,
what system are you plugging that one into, or do you swap it around depending on what you're using?
So this is plugged into a 2-display KVM, hardware KVM, that is using 4K60 HDMI 2.0. And then that HDMI 2.0 is going into a USB-C hub that is then plugged into my laptop.
Okay.
The reason it was doing that is because I don't actually have enough USB-A ports to plug in everything. So I needed a hub so I could plug in everything back into the... Because silly me, I only bought one USB-A thingy instead of, 3. And...
Wait. What are you plugging into this system?
Well, so my keyboard and mouse needs a USB-A port.
Sure.
Yeah, and the USB hub that I have that I plug in most of my devices, I have a 10-port USB 2.0 hub. That needs to be plugged into a USB-A port.
Right.
And my webcam is a USB-A 3.2.
Okay.
So I need 3.
Okay, it's not as much as I thought then. Okay, that's fair.
But like, I bought a 1 terabyte card.
Right.
I bought 2 USB-C, 1 USB-A, a display port, and an HDMI. And so I just don't have enough. I didn't pick the right combo, and I didn't realize it until after I got the computer and tried to set it up. It's like, oh, I don't have the right combo for this.
Well, luckily, you can get more of them.
I did, in fact, get more of them. See? More. That is another thing that I'm super happy about. Like, this was an unexpected thing that was great about it. It was like being able to swap out the connectors. Like, screwing up the number of the connectors I have was not a permanent mistake. And also, when I first set up the framework, I screwed up. I didn't actually assemble it properly. So I tore it back down and put it back together again twice. And honestly, it wasn't that bad. Sure, it took longer for me to set it up because, I messed up and I didn't install the storage the first time I assembled it. And then the second time I didn't actually put in the memory. So I had to take it apart and put it back again.
You know how people will like go through a build thing and then they'll be like, oh, there's a missing screw. Your RAM's not a missing screw.
Well, okay, so at the end I was almost like, do I have to take this apart again? Because there was this extra part that was in there that I didn't have a description of.
Right.
No, it turns out that it's only needed if I unplug the dedicated GPU and put in the expansion shell. Because it's used as a dummy thing to cut off the power connection to the thing. Well, I'm never going to unplug the GPU, so I don't care.
Right.
So I just was like, oh, okay, well, then I don't need to do anything, and I'm now done. So I didn't have to tear it down a third time to then put everything back, because in order to take the GPU out and to install anything there, you have to take the keyboard out, you have to take the colorways out, you have to take the trackpad off, and then you have to, like, unscrew all the panel things, and then pull the top off, and then detach the bezel. Like, it's a bunch of stuff to actually take apart.
Right.
To get to the innards. You're not supposed to take it apart that much.
But you can, and that's what's cool about Framework.
That is, and actually, I'm really looking forward to what happens in 5 years. Because 5 years is about the time where it's like, okay, this has now gotten to be a little bit on the pokey side. What do? Right? Like, normally the reason I hadn't bought a computer in 10 years, so we were talking about how this is like the first computer I bought in 10 years for myself.
Which is wild.
Usually the reason I don't do that is because I don't like having to spend money that isn't going to wind up being a real investment. And whenever I buy a computer, like, I wind up having this kind of paralysis of like, have I thought through everything that I'm going to need this for? Am I going to be like fine with this?
Yeah.
And it's just like with desktop compute and the last time I bought a computer, I bought a pre-built desktop. And the reason I bought a pre-built desktop was because after the Thailand floods, all the parts were so expensive that it wound up being cheaper for me to buy a pre-built than it was to assemble a computer by a lot. And the thing I found myself trapped in was with the pre-built computer, the innards are so custom that I can't actually upgrade anything.
Right, yeah.
And
there
that
are
sucks too.
some
And
OEMs that like are better at it, but yeah, depending on who you go with, it can definitely be a big problem.
I bought a Dell.
Oh, yeah, okay, then there's no hope there.
There's no hope there. But in the past, I had good experiences with Dell. My first desktop computer, first computer I paid for myself was a Dell Dimension. Then the next one I bought was an HP Pavilion, and that Pavilion was pretty good. And then I bought a Pavilion again, and then that was bad. And then I switched to a Dell again, and that's what I've got here for my Windows computer. And then, of course, I have a MacBook. And I've been a Mac user for 18 years now, I think.
Wow. What is that?
I've been a Mac user for almost as...
I was going to say, what does that put you as your first version of macOS?
I think that puts me at 10.3 or 4.
Wow.
So I think it's 2000. Yeah, like, because I first used Mac OS X Tiger as a Hackintosh on an old compact Presario laptop that I dug out of somewhere.
Okay.
And then a few years later, I won a MacBook Pro from SourceForge just before I started college.
Okay.
And after that, I've had Macs as my primary laptops ever since. And the big reason for that was that they were powerful and lightweight. I basically can't carry laptops like this framework around on my back anymore.
That's understandable. Yeah.
It will actually seriously hurt if I do. And so I don't. But for a long time, MacBooks were the only real choice for a powerful machine that was under 5 pounds. And of course, now we have MacBooks that are too heavy for me to carry around. Like, the MacBook Pro that I do development for Fedora Asahi Remix is actually, like, on borderline for me on weight. And it's just like, well, this is unpleasant. We're like, my MacBook from 2014, which is my Intel MacBook, is lighter than the ARM MacBook. And the ARM MacBook is a smaller logic board, has less parts inside. but it has so much more battery, it makes up for it in spades.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay.
Yep. And also the weight is horribly unbalanced, so it just feels bad because
Right.
it's battery, not like machinery.
Where's the battery located? Is it like the front of the back? I'll imagine it's the back.
It's actually closer to where the trackpad is. That's where the battery usually is.
That makes sense because if it was at the back and try to hold it up from like the front of it, it would probably like really like fall down. So I guess putting it to the front makes sense. Yeah.
Well, the actual reason is because the vents are in the back, and you would that would be very bad for all the heat to go right where the battery is.
True. That's true.
Like,
we've seen what happens.
I don't know about you, but I don't really want my batteries exploding due to like going out of temperature range.
Yeah, we had that happen.
I don't know if you've noticed, but Macs are not good thermally.
No, they are not.
They are very bad thermally.
They really like. I get what Apple's doing. They really want to like cut the fan as much as possible, and they want to like have silent device. And I get it, right? But I don't want a fire hazard. Like I will have a bit of white noise to avoid a fire hazard.
Yeah. Like, honestly, the main thing I'm actually worried about with my framework right now is the noise factor. If I do a stream, will it be so loud that I can't, nobody can hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Because whenever I'm doing compiling, the thing is so loud that the audio is like it overpowers me playing music.
Well,
that's my main complaint at this point. And I'm trying to figure out if I can do like some power tuning to make, because I don't need it to go full throttle. I really don't. And if I can take it down several notches and keep it from getting that loud, then that would be great. Like, thankfully right now, like what we're talking here and all that stuff, it's quiet.
I really hope
there's
Discord's not throttling.
Yeah, well, the other thing I found out that was kind of a surprise was plugging in. So I went and bought a USB-C hub like right before this.
Right.
I walked over to the Best Buy. I went there and picked it up and came back. And the USB hub has actually USB PD pass-through. That pass-through doesn't work with the framework at all.
Okay.
You can't use it. So you can plug in things through the hub, but if you try to use USB power pass-through, the displays stop working. So apparently, like, it's still glitchy for that kind of stuff. At this point, I'm blaming the AMD, the motherboard, and the Thunderbolt, and the USB controller that's in these things, because like this is not the first AMD powered laptop where I've seen this problem, where like it's actually a pain in the butt to get these hubs to do the right thing. This is actually the other thing where I'm like, you know what? Maybe it's better that I don't do AMD for a travel laptop, because like every AMD powered laptop I've actually run across has had serious problems with travel docks, docking stations, the works.
Okay.
So most likely, if I were to buy another computer for travel purposes, which I'm really not going to, I have plenty of them as it is. I don't need more. It would probably be Intel-based for the sole reason that Thunderbolt works.
Right. Okay, that makes sense.
Not having Thunderbolt would be a real problem. Like, actually, let me take a look. I don't know. This is supposed to have Thunderbolt on here? I don't think it... Oh, it does. No Thunderbolt device is connected, but it detects a Thunderbolt hub. That is unusual for an AMD device. Thunderbolt is typically not available on AMD platforms for most computers.
I didn't... Actually, no, that makes sense, right? Because isn't...
Because Intel owns it.
Right, yes. I completely... Because it got like associated with Apple for so long and didn't ever really appear on anything else. I completely forgot about that.
Yeah. So Apple and Intel own the Thunderbolt standard.
Okay. Right, that makes sense.
So here we are, right? Like...
It would have been nice if years ago Thunderbolt did become a more common thing, but I guess we have USB-C doing their different things.
It's the same thing that happened with FireWire.
Yeah.
Well, think about what happened with FireWire, right? IEEE 1394 didn't really take off because Sony made it difficult for everyone to have it.
You don't know... Wait, say that again. You don't know the IEEE number for FireWire, do you?
Yeah, IEEE 1394. 1394.
Of course you know that.
Dude, I spent years working in AV stuff. I'm going to know what the FireWire spec is.
Yeah, okay.
Look, okay, like at one point I did fan dubs, I did music production stuff, I did fan subbing and dubbing work. I did and I've done podcast stuff. I like 10 years ago I was also a YouTuber briefly doing like mobile tech stuff. Like I do know my way around this things, even though it doesn't look like it, and I don't do a lot of it now. That doesn't mean I don't know how it works.
I always forget just how many things that you've gotten involved with, like, or how many things you're involved with now. And if that's how many you're involved with now, I guess there's probably a lot of stuff that you've just like left behind in the past as well.
Yes, more or less.
So,
but also part of it is like my focus has changed.
Mm-hmm.
Like in 10, 15 years ago, I was more into telecommunications than I was into software stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And before that, I was more into AV production. So my first real interest, the thing that originally drove me to Linux, I think I told you this before, was doing AV stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that was what like made me become interested in Linux in the first place. So of course I learned a lot about AV stuff. And then later I got into telecom stuff because, cell phones and all that stuff piqued my interest. And then I graduated college and went to go be a software engineer. And so that happened. And here we are. Don't do software engineering either. I haven't been a software engineer in a decade. I was a DevOps engineer for a long time, and then I was a sales guy for like a hot minute.
That sounds.
And now here I am.
Fun.
I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm consulting. I guess that's what I do now. Like because I've got my own.
I did see that. Yeah. How's that going for you?
Yeah. We'll see. I set it up at the end of last year, which is in retrospect not the greatest time to start something.
No.
But hey, I had to do it at some point. But the fun thing is, it means that Halloween is always going to be the anniversary of the company.
That's cool.
Yeah, because that's when it got incorporated. So,
yeah,
it's a thing. Velocity Limitless is the company. I do stuff. I'm involved in things, and it's a thing I do.
I think that's a good way to describe your entire life. I'm involved in things.
Well, I mean, I told you before, I do this because I feel like, all this stuff has kind of given me a lot to work from and to benefit from. And I try to help others where I can. And so I try to lend my skills and expertise as a way to give back what has been given to me.
Right.
So
for anyone who like may not have seen the last episode, I don't need a full list, please. We don't need to be here all day, but like a short list of the main things that you currently are focused on for anyone who's not aware. Now you got to rank them and think about the ones you want to talk about.
Right. So, I, in no particular order, because they will come to my brain as I talk. In Fedora, I'm involved in Fedora Workstation. I lead Fedora KDE. I lead Fedora Sahi. I'm involved in Fedora Cloud. I'm somewhat involved in Fedora Server. I'm involved in. I'm part of Fedora Python Go. Co-founded Fedora Rust. And a few other things here and there. Like I'm also helping out in Fedora LXQt, Fedora Budgie, and a few other things that are going to be coming down the pipe in the next few weeks or months. In CentOS, I am the co-chair of the CentOS Hyperscale SIG, along with Davida Kavalka. Yep, I think that's right. Kavalka. Kavalka. Yes. Davida's going to see this and he's going to wonder why I'm stumbling over his name. And it's just, I'm sorry, dude, but like in my head, the syllables just jumble up in their emphasis and it screws me up. But Davida and I are co-chairs for the CentOS Hyperscale SIG. I also help out with Fedora and CentOS infrastructure. I am also doing some. I help out with the CentOS Alternative Images, which produces live media based on CentOS Stream with the various desktops.
Mhm.
Along the lines of the spins that you have in Fedora, this is what the Alt Images SIG provides for CentOS people. It's actually really new. They spun up and produced their first artifacts in February, and they just made their first update release actually last week. So that's a thing, sigs.centos.org/altimages. Let's see what else. So that's CentOS and Fedora. And in OpenSUSE, I'm a member of the OpenSUSE board. I am involved in the project management for OpenSUSE Leap. I contribute to OpenSUSE Leap and Tumbleweed. I maintain a bunch of packages. I mean, I also maintain a bunch of packages in Fedora too. That goes without saying. But and then I guess I help out with OpenSUSE Kalpa. So Sean Dunn, who's the guy who leads OpenSUSE Kalpa, which is formerly OpenSUSE MicroOS Desktop with KDE Plasma.
That's such a bad name. I'm glad it changed.
Look, it's a mouthful. I am happy that this is Kalpa now. Fun fact about Kalpa. Kalpa and Aeon are in rough synonyms. Aeon is, of course, the Greek word for millennium, and Kalpa is roughly translated to millennium in English because it effectively is considered the same as an aeon in Sanskrit. So,
okay.
I think it's like 4.2 billion years is what the mathematical representation of a Kalpa is. And like how people say you'll be remembered for millennia in Indic languages, people will say you'll be remembered for a Kalpa. So it's like the same thing.
Right.
So Kalpa is the KDE one, and Aeon is the GNOME one that's run by Richard Brown. Okay, going down the list further, Magia. I contribute packages to it. I'm technically part of the Magia Council, as well as the Magia Org Board, which is the association that actually owns the project. I am also a member, a packager contributor to Open Mandriva. I have contributed to Rosa Linux, which is a fork of Open Mandriva. I have contributed to Yocto briefly. Some of my patches are still there, I think. Let's see, what else have I done? I've done some stuff in Debian and Ubuntu. My name shows up a little bit there. And of course, more recently, I've gotten involved in free desktop stuff, Wayland protocol reviews, and things like that. And this is your fault, Brody. I blame you.
Okay.
I am running for being on the Xorg board.
Oh, wow!
Have you actually not looked Have you not actually looked at that page since you made that video?
There's a
you
lot
should
of things.
Go look.
Wait, Xorg board of directors.
Xorg board elections 2024.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I've not looked at it since then. I assume there are people actually running now.
Not that many, but yes.
Yeah. No. Oh, Simon's running. Was he there before?
Yeah, Simon Sayre's there.
Was he running before?
No, he's new.
Okay.
No, he's new.
David Heidelberg. I know that name.
He's Calabra. He works on Mesa stuff, I think.
I've probably seen him in Mesa stuff. Okay, yeah. Mark Fillion from Calabra as well. I don't recognize that one. Eric Fay. There's a lot of Calabra people on here. Wow. Huh.
Yeah, that one's a little weird. But yes, I think all of them are Mesa and Xorg developers. I know Eric Fay is. I see him in Mesa a lot.
Mesa, Panfrost, Open Graphics generally. Okay.
I've seen David, I think, in Xorg and in Mesa. I don't know about Mark Fillion. I don't actually remember where I've seen him before. I have seen him before, but I don't remember where.
He organized...
And then there's me.
And then there's you.
I'm just there. I don't do much. I'm just there.
When are the elections? Oh, so the election.
It should be on the.
Sorry.
The details of the election periods are on the page.
Election planned end April 8th. Okay, well, it's over now. I don't know if that.
Yeah, it's done.
So they just count out votes then, or like. do it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's electronic voting, so the votes have already been tallied.
Okay, they're just
Um,
waiting on some date to release the results.
yep.
Right.
But that's why I felt okay with bringing it up because it's already over and there's no way you could game the system. I
That's
also
true.
figured that you completely forgot you made a video about it.
No, I remember the video. I just forgot to check back in on it. That happens to a lot of topics I do, where people are like, "Hey, do you want to do an update on this thing? This thing's all changed." Like, I should do that, shouldn't I? This is the problem with making, like, talking about as many things as I do. Like, occasionally I just forget that I talked about it, or forget that I should check back in and just see what's going on. Yeah.
Welcome to my world.
Yeah, but your world's a lot more important than mine. I just talk about shit.
Look, dude, my world's not that important because all the stuff I do doesn't mean anything if no one knows about it.
That's fair. Yeah, I get
that
that.
being said, I'm real bad at the self-promotion thing, mostly because I have low self-esteem like a lot of other people. And it is not easy to talk about the stuff that I do or work on. And another part of it is it's hard to feel like I'm not bragging when I talk about this stuff.
Right.
I think a lot of developer types who actually do a lot of this stuff struggle to figure out what the right balance is for communicating this kind of stuff because it's really easy to sound like a braggart to people who don't. It's hard to be. It's easy to be misinterpreted, and so a lot of people just don't bother.
Right. Yeah,
to our detriment, really.
I have talked to a bunch of people about, like, who are, like, more outgoing, they feel like a lot of devs are really bad at the, like, outward communication. Like, they're great at talking about things internally with other developers and feature things they want to do, but when it comes to promoting that work, whether it be their individual work or even just the project level work, a lot of people are really bad at even just communicating in a very technical way to people outside the project. And I do get that. Like, I can see how that would feel like bragging, how it could feel like just, I don't know, maybe some people feel like they're like looking down on people by doing that, or however, like, I get it. It makes sense, right?
A lot of people actually have really great conversational skills, but the problem is the way, because there's this stigma and the stereotypes around engineers. You know how, there's people who say that, oh, engineers, they can't be social. They hide in a basement and then they just do stuff and no one knows what they're doing and they can't really communicate or whatever. It's like, in what world are you living in? Like, most engineers have to know how to communicate because they have to be able to succeed at what they're doing. No, the reason that they don't communicate as much is because to outside stakeholders is because it's really hard to do it without sounding like a jerk to some people, right? Like, a lot of times the developer discussions wind up being where someone has to put their foot down and actually state an opinion strongly and state a direction. And if it's misinterpreted, it sounds like this person is just ignoring everybody what they're saying. Like, this is a thing I have to deal with a lot with, leading Fedora KDE. When I am by nature a collaborative leader, I don't actually like making unilateral decisions. It sucks, and I always feel bad when I do it. But I also know that leadership means sometimes you have to. And, like, no one is usually happy when something like that happens. And I, with the KDE Plasma 6 change, like, it was difficult. People really didn't want to understand it on the merits or try to, do the right kind of analysis to understand where the gaps are. But in the end, right, like, I still think that conversation went fairly productively because the end result is we got color management a whole release early. Basic color management came a whole 6 months earlier than it was supposed to. We got a lot of other things in place much earlier. KDE Plasma now actually works properly on Wayland in a virtual machine, which it didn't before. And I'm telling you this because I have tested every single release of KDE Plasma in VMware Workstation, Hyper-V, and in KVM since Fedora 34 with Wayland by default. And it has gone back and forth between working to being completely, utterly broken. And and it's because people just aren't really using it. They didn't really feel the need to prioritize making sure it worked. Well, during the Plasma 6 development, because of this, there was a guy who stepped up and said, like, hey, I'm using X11 because VMware Workstation, like, when I'm trying to run Plasma in VMware Workstation, like, it's all goofy and horrible. And I'm like, okay, well, let's work this out, and put him in touch with the upstream developers. And the dude actually contributed code to fix it himself. He like went through the effort of debugging. He was like, yeah, I know how this stuff works. So and then he filed bug reports, he made patches, he sent merge requests up. They got accepted, and Plasma 6 actually launched with working virtualization support, which is like, yeah, there's still goofy things around VirtualBox, but nobody can do anything about that. Like, VirtualBox be VirtualBox.
Right.
But like, for the most part, like, I gave a talk to a Linux users group remotely just last week about KDE Plasma 6 and Fedora KDE, and I did a demo where it was inside of GNOME boxes and streamed over, and I was just showing them, hey, this is what KDE Plasma looks like. This is what these things are. And someone asked me, well, I don't like this Windowsy paradigm. I want to have it look a little bit different, and I want to have like a search bar. I want the global menus. I'm like, all right, let's do this. And I did it on the spot. I just changed things on there, and it didn't crash. It worked fine. And the end result was admittedly slightly ugly because I turned on the accent color, and it turns out the accent color from the wallpaper is like this weird olive green color. But
okay,
because this is Fedora 40 with the draft wallpaper, like it's and it's very green. And apparently the algorithm for the colors wound up being this very weird olive earthy green color. And I'm just like, okay, I guess that's what we're going with. Sure. And it looked fine. And it recolored the icons, and it did all the other stuff. And it's like, this is really cool. This is a really nice, and like, people were so stoked. Like, the kind of like, there were people that were like, oh yeah, I'm using Mate, I'm using XFCE, I'm using these. It's like, I want to try out KDE Plasma now. And I'm like, this is the whole point. I want people to like sit up and rethink their assumptions about KDE Plasma and Fedora KDE. And it's been interesting seeing how like people on the internet talk about it as if we're the premium experience. I'm like, oh my gosh. Just like a few years ago, we were considered an also ran and kind of the dregs of the KDE experiences, like, and we're this far along, and I'm so humbled and grateful and thankful for, the team and how much work that they've done to make it a reality. Because it's not just me, right? There's like 11 other people in the KDE SIG that do a bunch of work, and then there's of course hundreds of developers in KDE upstream that do even more work, and it's a phenomenal combination.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I how words. I think Plasma, from my experiences, like, people have thought that I hate Plasma because like a lot of the things I've said about it have been, fairly critical. But I think Plasma 6 is a great environment. I just think that it's 27 years old. It's a 27-year-old software project that's had thousands of developers over the years, and there are parts of the code base that haven't been touched in a while. There are issues there. There are rough edges. It's not a perfect environment, but it's really good. Like, it's a really good environment. And don't just take my experience with the bad things that I've had and just take that like as is. Try it out. Whether you try it on Fedora KDE or you want to try it on
Fedora KDE.
You want to try, sure, or you want to try it out on Kalpa. Do they have Plasma 6 yet? Or are they still?
Yes.
Okay.
Kalpa is based on OpenSUSE Tumbleweed, so it rolls.
Okay.
So it has Plasma 6 already.
Right. I know Kubuntu's not getting it, which is funny because they want to stick on 5.27, and yeah.
It's
actually, what are your thoughts on that? Because the devs, like the KDE devs I've talked to, they are like, sort of, they're okay with it because they're going to keep supporting 5.27 for a bit anyway, and it's an LTS release. But then the issue I have is by the end of the LTS, they're going to get 4-year-old bug reports for 5.27, and they're going to like, this has been addressed for years now, which is, the Debian effect, basically.
Well, so my thing about this is, it's sort of sad because we intended to adjust the schedule for Plasma so Kubuntu and Fedora could actually include it. But Kubuntu had organizational issues that needed to be worked out, and that sort of meant that it couldn't do it. In the future, it'll be easier for Kubuntu to adopt newer versions of Plasma. My concern about them being on Plasma 5, personally, is that we're already at the end of the life cycle for Plasma 5. This is it. And this also kind of goes back to the larger problem that Plasma LTS is not really maintained. I hold the personal opinion that we shouldn't have a Plasma LTS.
I think most people don't even realize there is a Plasma LTS.
That's probably a good thing for everybody involved. So technically, Katie, and you covered my thing on Reddit where I posted about the life cycles.
I did, yes.
So KDE Plasma is actually 3 layers. You have frameworks at the bottom, you have Plasma in the middle, and then you have Gear on the top.
Frameworks is the libraries, yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Frameworks is the libraries that have a stable ABI. The applications.
Okay. Okay, just so people are clear on them. Awesome.
Yep. So the frameworks, they're ABI stable throughout the whole major version. No one cares. They don't need an LTS. That's fine. They get released monthly. The Plasma desktop is released, as you know, 3 times a year on strange offsets. The idea is that starting next year, hopefully, we will start moving to semi-annual, synchronizing with Fedora and Kubuntu.
So a more GNOME-like model.
Yes, actually, explicitly, basically in lockstep with how GNOME releases. Now, this middle part is special. This middle part gets an LTS release every once in a while. I forget what the cadence is. It's somewhere on the documents, but I don't care since we don't ship it. But that LTS version does not get a lot of love by the distributions that do ship it. When we decided in Fedora KDE to stop shipping Plasma LTS to CentOS and RHEL users, we did it because it was not a very good experience for our users. They were not happy, and they were filing bug reports on us about things that were broken that we knew were fixed in newer releases. But also that there was not people working on Plasma LTS in the first place. So the other distributions that were actually shipping Plasma LTS, Kubuntu and OpenSUSE Leap, don't really do anything to help make Plasma LTS any better. So it just kind of sits there and exists, in my mind, as a fallacy of long-term maintained. So it's there, and if somebody wants to contribute bug fixes, they'll be accepted. But no one's actively going through and backporting fixes from future releases into the stable.
Okay.
And which is more of like what you see with the Linux kernel and other things. And notably, GNOME doesn't have an LTS.
Okay.
They don't do that at all. They just release every 6 months, and the distributors got to pick up the slack on their own.
Okay. So with like Ubuntu LTS then, are they like not shipping patches for that? I don't use Ubuntu LTS. I'm not really sure on their release module. Do they like not have any, like, are they backporting the patches themselves, or?
Yes, that's what everybody does.
Okay.
So like if you look at RHEL's GNOME shell, and if you look at RHEL's GNOME and you look at or CentOS Stream, because if you look at the CentOS Stream Git repositories for the GNOME packages, and if you look at Ubuntu's in Launchpad, and if you look at OpenSUSE's in the OBS, that is, everybody's doing it on their own. There is actually no central LTS for GNOME. The GNOME project, I believe, historically has said that they don't want to be in the business of long-term maintained stuff. And so they don't. And so the distributors that are shipping long-term maintained versions of GNOME are doing it on their own. And everybody picks a different version. Actually, this is why SUSE does a rebase every other year. So like they're moving up to GNOME 45 with the upcoming Leap 15.6. In the past, Red Hat used to do rebases for RHEL's GNOME. But now that they release RHEL every 3 years, it's a little less necessary. And then if you look at what Ubuntu does, is they don't do anything. They just for the most part, what happens is they will backport fixes when they discover it. But again, their GNOME is highly customized. They have their own non-upstream patches, and so for them, it's a very different situation from what GNOME and from what SUSE and Red Hat do. So again, it's not a bad approach. It's not a good approach. Whatever way you want to, I mean, depending on your perspective, it's a good or a bad approach. the main advantage, I think, to the Ubuntu approach is that they get to actually define their experience more. And I actually feel like sometimes it gives Ubuntu slightly more power within the GNOME ecosystem by being able to say, like, if we don't like this, we're actually willing to ship something to our users to support their needs. Um, and this is actually kind of like and I'm not saying this like in a negative light or in an antagonistic light, right? Like, for Fedora KDE in particular, with Plasma 5, they were single click by default upstream, and we switched to double click
I think
because
that's a big part of
that was what user.
Yeah, every distro was doing double click, so yeah.
Well, we were the last one to switch,
okay.
And that was
right.
That was the point where everybody started considering maybe we should do this upstream, because at that point none of the big ones were doing it. All the ones that typically go like vanilla were changing this default, and so at that point we're like, okay. And this is actually an important counterweight. Like, you know how I know you've talked about in your videos how, like, you know, distributors should be getting out of the business of delivering software, but I think it's actually important to recognize that this is the counterweight that we actually do provide. Like, by doing this, we are able to also say, hey, our users are saying that stuff around this is not right. And we're able to push back and provide that feedback, because when you funnel it, you know, when you look at the feedback funnel, when individual users are doing stuff and they give it, it's very unfocused, it's scattered, it's a lot of it. It's also easy to miss as noise. But then when it gets funneled down into the distributors, and the distributors are collating it and they're understanding, and hopefully they're actually engaging with the user base that's actually they're shipping to, that turns into more focused, actionable feedback that you can then take back to the upstream project and say, hey, this is what our users are telling us. This is what we're doing in response to them. What do you think? What should we do here? And when you don't have that part of the loop, right? Like, you start having malfeasance in software development, because you don't have the power balance. You don't have a counterweight to what somebody does. Like, so this is one of the reasons why I always have mixed feelings about Flatpaks and snaps, especially with how people talk about it as like the developer now fully controls it. You're getting it as they envision.
Right.
But like, when you look at how that works out in other ecosystems, in Windows and Mac, it turns into sometimes abusive relationships with the users. The counterweight in open source is that, and I think a lot of people have forgotten that we're not supposed to consider upstreams 100% good. The fact that open source upstream projects are are most of the time good. I can't even say 100% because we now know that that's not
definitely
true.
Not 100%. No.
But generally speaking, upstreams are good not because they don't have the power to do something bad, but they know that we have the power to call them out. If you take that counterweight away, it becomes a lot easier, you know, to get down that downward spiral of user experiences. I also regularly talk to people about, you know, they say, well, I hate Electron apps. I would rather have native apps. Yeah, okay, so what Electron apps do you use? Well, I use Skype. I use Discord. I use, you know, I use Teams. You know what all those things have in common? You don't get to choose what your user experience is. You also don't get to choose whether you can use it or not. So my working theory has been for several years now, is that if you are using an Electron, if a software developer is giving you an Electron app, it's either one of two things. Either one, they're just like really new to the whole app thing, and then they're just taking a web thing and then turning it into an app. You see a lot of small apps like this with Electron that way. But if it's a company provided app, or if it's something that's like a big time high production thing like Visual Studio Code, like Teams and Skype and Discord, they use Electron because they know they don't have to work at providing a better experience. They don't have to, because you are stuck. You can't say no. You can't walk away. And if you can't walk away, there is no incentive for anyone to do any better. So why should they bother to invest in performance, resource usage, technologies, integration? Why should they bother? They don't have a reason to, either between network effects or being forced to by other external factors. They know they've got you. And so this is why, like, I look at this. Telegram's a native app, but Signal isn't. Element isn't. And we also Discord isn't. Skype isn't. Slack isn't. These are, with the notable exception of Element, every single one of these apps, I can't choose to use something else.
Mm-hmm.
If I can't choose something else, they don't have to choose to be better.
Right.
And so if you think of it that way, a lot of decisions around how apps are being made make a ton more sense.
Mm-hmm.
As long as that there's some kind of user or consumer or distributor side counterweight that they can say no. What do they have to do? They don't have to do anything. They don't have to listen to you. They don't have to care what you think.
No, I definitely see where you're coming from here.
It's just been my observations over the 10 years of like doing this stuff, and in corporate environments having to be part of that vendor engagement stuff. Like, yeah, we don't care what you think. You don't have a choice.
Yeah, a lot of the people I've talking to about this are the developers who want to, like, they want to have there's obviously reasons why a developer would want to have upstream packaging. Like, it makes it considerably easier to do debugging. You know that users are going to be running the application, assuming the solution is working properly, is going to be running in a consistent environment. That makes it considerably easier for them. So you don't have to worry about, oh, we have a Debian user here, they're reporting 5-year-old bugs. They're not going to, because they're running the latest version. From their perspective, that makes sense. And after the recent XZ incident, I am definitely... I'm of two minds about this, because I can absolutely see the value in doing it upstream, but I see where you're coming from with the downstream stuff as well, and I don't think the downstream stuff's ever going to go away. Like, there's always going to be a position... Well, the code's open source. If someone wants to distribute it, they can distribute it. But I don't know. It's a really tough problem. I don't think there is one side that is correct here. I do see where you're going with this, though.
I'm making here is that you should celebrate that the counterweight exists, because what that does is it's a check that makes sure that people recognize that there's a power balance here, and that they are motivated to not upset that balance in a negative way, because they will be called out on it. It's actually, I think, like, my biggest problem with a lot of this stuff, where, like, in principle, Flatpaks and snaps are probably fine, right? Like, we've talked about this before. They're fine, right? I personally have had subpar developer experiences working with Flatpaks. My understanding is that is actually actively improving. So,
yeah, that seems to be a common thing that's said. Like, the user experience is incredible. The developer experience is... It could be. Like, Snap... Canonical's done an incredible job at making the Snap experience and getting people involved in the Snap ecosystem. Like, they've put a lot of effort into that, but, Flatpak being, like, a community-run thing, it's taken more time to get there.
Well, and it's also, like, the different aim. So, like, if you look at where snaps and Flatpaks originate from and where their motivations are, it's a little different. If you look at how Flatpak works, you got to build everything from source. You got to produce your own bundles. You got to do your own auditing and whatever. And there's not a lot of help for you from the Flatpak and FlatHub people in this respect. And then you have some of the, frankly, weird rules and guidelines that FlatHub gives you, which I'm just like, why do we care about GNOME HIG in FlatHub? This is, like, not a thing we should be, like, conform to what guidelines? Whose guidelines? What are we talking about here, right? But but if you look at what they're talking about as if all the developers are affiliated with a particular ecosystem. But if you look at the Snap side of things, there's a basic assumption that the developer is an individual doing their own thing, but they also want to do reuse in a trusted way. So one of the core differences between snaps and Flatpaks that I I think Snap does somewhat better,
Mhm.
is that out of the gate, you can reuse Ubuntu packages or RPMs or whatever. You can reuse existing packages for constructing snaps.
Mhm.
Outside of Fedora Flatpaks, that's not really a thing. You can't reuse existing packages to construct your application bundles.
Mhm.
So you don't have a trusted input pipeline for building Flatpaks. You get to be that raccoon digging out free code and hoping that everything is
Such a
going
good
to be
line.
fine.
I love it so much.
Look, man, I love that blog post since I first saw it 2 years ago. And like when Exorcist happened, I'm like, here, this is important.
Also, I love that name for XZ as well.
Right. So Exorcist is Justin Flory, who the Fedora community architect, Justin Flory. He came up with that name, and I'm like, I'm running with this. This is fantastic. And now it's like everywhere, and I'm just like, yes. But like the Exorcist incident, right? I linked to that blog post about it, and then you talked about it on. I don't know where you got it from because a bunch of other people did.
I think I might have seen
like
your
that,
repost, but yeah, someone reposted it.
But like that post, that quote sticks with me forever. You are a raccoon digging out free code, because that is what a lot of them do. Like if you look at some of the Flatpak builds manifests, it's just, okay, we're going to slap this thing, we're going to slap that thing in, we're going to run these things, and we're going to do these flags, and we're going to, boom, done.
Yeah, the Audacity Flatpak is a good example of this, where the Audacity Flatpak, from my understanding, is unusable. I don't think it supports the file portal.
It's Wix widgets. They don't have a whole lot of the stuff working yet.
Yeah, so it's just like this. Like, you can make the Flatpak, yeah, but like...
but it's not good.
It's no, yeah.
Like, but the point I'm making here is, like, if you look at the manifest for a lot of these Flatpaks, it's just a list of tarballs that are probably not getting updated ever. Like, and they're getting built, and who knows what's going on? Not me. No one else. No one's looking at it. No one cares. Like, like that's it leans, from my perspective, it leans too far in the other direction. Is that a beanbag that looks like a cut open avocado?
What?
Look, man, I don't know. On the left, to your right, from when I'm looking at you to your left, it's your right.
This side?
Move your hand more. Turn your hand back. Point where
Oh, wait.
That beanbag down there looks like it's a cut open avocado.
Where are you? Beanbag cut open avocado. Wait. Wait. Like it's here?
That one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that one.
I can show you what that is. Give me a second.
Well, okay. That's not an avocado.
So what was that?
So it's not an avocado.
It's not an avocado or a beanbag, no.
But hey, that's what it looked like in the shadow.
Well,
anyway, it was just now you know that this is my ADD when I'm thinking about things. Stream of consciousness is super streamy. But like basically getting back to the Flatpak Snap thing, is the main concern I actually have about that stuff is, on top of doing all that, who's doing the compliance for any of that? A lot of those things actually include licenses that say that as you're distributing the binaries, you have to provide a source bundle with the corresponding recipes on how you built everything. Neither Flatpak nor Snap actually have a mechanism for providing you that. If you look at an RPM has a source out RPM artifact. That source RPM artifact includes all the sources, all the patches, and the build instructions in a form that you can easily use to rebuild it. If you look at Debian, they have this weird DSC file that lists references to other files that basically give you a way to build it, right? But if you look at all the other things, right, this seems to be a thing everybody's kind of forgotten. They're like, oh, no, we can host it on the GitHubs. Or if you look at the Git repo, that's enough. And it's like, that's not actually how that works.
Mm-hmm.
It's a serious problem that I feel that they don't really take enough care of. The fact that there is no source artifact form for either Flatpak or Snap is something that I have personally struggled with in trying to be able to endorse these things for any open source or proprietary stuff. Because
there's also the
being
issue
able
of...
to do that compliance.
I was going to say...
You can't do that compliance.
Sorry, I was also going to say, there's also the issue of proprietary apps that don't want to be redistributed. Like, that's also an issue as well.
Right. Well, and the thing is, when it comes to proprietary applications, you're supposed to acknowledge the license before you actually run. In a lot of cases, you're supposed to acknowledge the license before you install it.
Mm-hmm.
For a lot of them, for example, Discord. Mm-hmm. Discord does not present you with an EULA when you start up the application. It only presents you with a EULA when you install it.
Mm-hmm.
On Windows.
Right. I was going to say...
But on Linux, they don't do anything, and so you're just kind of silently accepting terms that you have no idea about. Which is questionable in its own right.
I don't they present it to you when you make an account, though?
Nope. That's not the important part. The important part is that when the application launches for the first time, it needs to present it to you. Because you have their software on your computer.
Right.
And also think about things like Zoom, Skype, Steam. Steam actually does the right thing here. I think when you set it up for the first time, it prompts you with a EULA and a service agreement. So it actually does the right thing, but a lot of the others don't. And it's because they assume that when you're going through their normal download mechanisms, you have clicked through the agreement to get to the point where you get the package. That doesn't happen in FlatHub. And that doesn't happen on Snapcraft.
Well, to be fair, it doesn't happen with the regular package managers either.
No, but actually it can.
Okay.
So if you use a SUSE distribution and you install their non-free repo and you try to install non-free software that has a EULA, it prompts you to accept the EULA before it'll install.
So
that has been a feature in PackageKit for years, and it is
Fedora
actually supported. No,
okay.
We don't have the extension wired up to do anything.
Okay.
But also we don't ship software that makes it necessary.
That's a fair point.
Right? The reason it exists for
OpenSUSE
is because SUSE has. Well, Arch is special.
Well, and Ubuntu doesn't do it either. Like, you can pick on any other
they do.
Do they?
Ubuntu does. They do it. They make a depconf prompt and make you accept a EULA.
Huh. I need to go run
you
Ubuntu
done
on a
this
VM.
In a long time.
No, it's been a while since I've used Ubuntu on a VM. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
Whenever you install proprietary software through a deb, if they've done it right, they actually do prompt you for the license agreement. So, and the same goes for in SUSE with their RPM world. Like, if you install, for example, the example I like giving is if you install either the NVIDIA driver or Adobe Flash. Now, you're not going to install Adobe Flash anymore, because why? But, like, if you go back enough old releases of OpenSUSE and you go install Adobe Flash, it actually prompts you with the Adobe Flash license agreement. And if you don't accept it, you don't get to install it.
Huh.
So that's been a feature in SUSE's RPM package management stack forever. It doesn't exist in the Red Hat world because we actually don't ship software that needs that.
Right.
Because we don't ship software that needs that, we don't need it. We don't have the feature. And in Debian world, because debconf allows you to do uninterruptible, non-skippable, interactive prompts, they just use that for EULAs. So, like, in a world where we have automation, obviously you don't like having those things, but in a world where you have to deal with licenses that you need to know the terms of before you actually use it, it's important. VMware Workstation, what they do is that they make accepting the EULA required to start the program for the first time. But not that many applications do that.
Right. you spend a lot of time thinking about stuff that most people don't even acknowledge is a problem.
I think about the things that nobody else wants to.
Mhm.
It is like this is actually like this is the biggest reason why I feel very uncomfortable endorsing a lot of these things, because these things are not thought of and people are not interested in solving them.
Mhm.
And if you're not interested in solving these problems, it's going to bite us later.
Mhm.
And then we're going to be in an even bigger mess because, sure, a bad dependency means that you have a CVE or whatever, but like not being compliant with a legal agreement can be a lawsuit.
Yeah, that's brought us down a bit.
Yeah.
Well,
on a happier note.
Yeah, on a happier note.
Nouveau.
Nouveau
and Nova.
Oh, yes. I am really happy what's happening with the NVIDIA ecosystem. I genuinely would not have thought a couple of years ago that we would be in the state we're in now, where we are just about to see, it's, depending on how you want to find it, NVK is in a good state. Nova is a stub, and that'll be a thing in a couple of years, probably. Proprietary NVIDIA is getting explicit sync done after 7 years, which is wild. We are literally months away from NVIDIA actually being good on Wayland, and that's crazy. Like, absolutely crazy.
We're not months away. We're not months away. We're weeks away.
What, you mean with...
Mesa
Okay.
Mesa 24.1 comes out at the end of this month.
Uh-huh.
That makes NVK no longer experimental, and it's a fully conformant Vulkan 1.3 implementation.
Okay, NVK is weeks away, but I think we're still waiting a little bit on the proprietary stuff, though.
The 555 driver, you mean?
Is that
because
the version?
I think that's the version series that will include explicit sync. I think it went out in beta already. I think they actually already implemented it. I want to say that they did.
But to start seeing it on regular distros, it's probably going to be... I think it's fair to say, Ubuntu, you're not going to see it until 24.10. Fedora, I don't know what Fedora does. Actually, well, you don't ship it. It's in RPM Fusion, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so apparently 555 is targeted for May 15th, so my answer is still correct. We're weeks away. So the beta release for the 555 driver is May 15th, and it will include support for Wayland explicit sync. Here's the... I'll just drop it in this weird Discord chat thing that we have.
Thank you. Put it there. Sweet. Okay. Yeah. That's crazy.
I stand by my statement. We're weeks away, dude. We're not months away. We're weeks away.
And then I guess, people can focus on the other problems that exist in the Wayland ecosystem. And don't talk about GPUs anymore, which I'm really sick of hearing about GPU problems with NVIDIA.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is, right, I became aware of this stuff, gosh, I want to say 3-4 years ago, and I didn't believe people. I didn't believe the person who told me that this was happening back then. This was before anyone said anything for real on the internet, and it was and then 2 years ago, it was oh yeah, this is now a thing. It was you've got to be kidding me. I didn't. It's yep, this has been in the works for almost a decade. I'm my God.
It's nice. It really is, because, I talk about Wayland a lot, and people always will say, I have an NVIDIA card, I can't use Wayland. There are different people, because my understanding is it's, because of it being a sync issue, it's very much a race condition, so some people have no issues, other people, it's useless. But...
Yeah, because, 2 members of my team in Fedora KDE, they use NVIDIA.
And
they're fine. I actually solicited their opinion before we went with the Wayland-only path for Fedora KDE, for Fedora 40, because NVIDIA was important.
When is...
Of course, the other...
sorry, I was going to say, when is
Fedora... 40?
Yeah, when is 40 scheduled for?
Well, technically, it's supposed to release next Tuesday.
Okay, so it's going to be a bit before 555 then. About a month.
So if this Thursday's because I have no idea when this is actually going to go out, we are recording on April 9th, 2024.
It is my birthday for you. It's the day after my birthday.
Okay, we are recording in April 10th, 2024.
Mm-hmm.
From Brody's side.
Mm-mm.
The side that is wrong and upside down.
That's true.
With
30-minute time zones.
Yeah.
And daylight savings.
I mean,
anyway, yes.
Yes. Anyway, point is, so it is April 9th / April 10th.
Mm-hmm.
And the go, no go decision for Fedora 40 is going to be on April 11th.
Mm-hmm.
If it is a go on April 11th, we will release on April 16th.
Okay.
If it is a no-go, then we have to do this debate again next Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
On the 18th. And then if it's a go then, we release on the 23rd. If we don't pass then on the 18th, then we got to do this again on the 25th, and then we release on the 30th. Okay. And if we fail that, you can see where this is going.
Right. Yeah, okay. Let's hope that it goes well.
I really don't want a Fedora 39 again. Fedora 39 was delayed almost a month.
From the KDE side, I don't know how much you know about the workstation stuff that's going on, but from the KDE side, is everything looking good?
We have one slightly unexplainable but difficult to deal with crash that's being investigated by upstream KDE,
mm-hmm.
but it is not likely to be considered a blocker because it is difficult to hit.
Right.
But it is easy enough to hit that it's worrisome. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't happen immediately for people, so we'll see how that goes. Mm-hmm. We might actually get a fix within a week, and then it'll be fine. Who cares? Mm-hmm. But it's also just not a huge deal. Mm-hmm. Workstation side, right now we have. Oh gosh, I think we have an issue where the camera app, the new camera app Snapshot, doesn't actually work at all. At least on my computer on my laptop that runs Workstation, it shows no camera found, even though I have a camera built into the screen and I know it works. There's a couple of other issues. At least it doesn't crash anymore or do anything weird. Mm-hmm. That's fixed, but the camera doesn't work sometimes, which is not great either. So, and I think that's it from a blocker perspective. Because to give you an idea here, here we are. This is where you can see all of the blocker bugs that are being handled and dealt with.
Is it relatively normal to see a Fedora release get delayed?
Well, it didn't. For a long time, it wasn't normal. Mm-hmm. And then last year, it started happening again.
I see.
Fedora 39 was Fedora 39 was a very messy release because the Red Hat layoffs hit us hard.
Right, yeah.
We lost our program manager, Ben Cotton, and we also lost our community lead, Marie Norden. Mm-hmm. Well, she had just switched off of being a community lead, but we also lost her, and she was very important for a lot of the community engagement stuff. And because of that, things just slowed to a crawl. Mm-hmm. Fedora 39 was easily the most painful release I've been involved in a long, long time. I hope that this, Fedora 40 has been smooth sailing compared to that, and that is saying something, because Fedora 40 has been the toughest release I've worked on in a while. Mm-hmm. This release was special because in Fedora KDE and Fedora Cloud, I did a lot of work. For Fedora Cloud, I worked with the Cloud team to re-engineer how we make cloud images. So they're now using a new image building tool called Kiwi from the OpenSUSE guys. And we use that to build all of our cloud images in our base containers. And for Fedora KDE, of course, we went with KDE Plasma 6. We're doing the Wayland only thing on the media and that sort of thing. And both of them are done. Everything is good now. But my God, it was so much work. That was way more work than I actually expected I was going to do this cycle. Um, and on top of that, we get our standard of, oh, we get a new GCC and all the things broke again. And like, yes, I realize that it's actually important that we do this because Fedora is the first distribution where GCC gets aggressively tested against.
Mm-hmm.
The corpus that is Fedora Rawhide is used to determine whether there's things that need to be fixed in GCC before its final stabilization phase.
Mm-hmm.
So I realize that that's a thing, but we also had all the flags tightened.
Mm-hmm.
So for hardening the packages this cycle, a lot. So now we have C type safety. So we check for pointer conversions and all this other fun stuff. You're a developer type, you know what the horribleness that is C. Right? Like we dealt with all that stuff. That was this cycle on top of everything else. And so normally spring releases I try hard not to do a lot because spring releases are difficult because we get a new GCC every time.
Right.
So I try to do the bigger changes personally for me from a scheduling point of view. I try to do them in the fall releases because we don't have a compiler coming down the pipeline at the same time.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And we had GCC and Clang changing at the same time this cycle because we had GCC 14 and Clang 18, LLVM 18. And so everything changed.
Right.
It was a very tough release.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That sounds fun.
But yeah, but from like an organizational perspective, I think we did okay this time.
Okay.
We've done very well. Like the mass rebuild took longer than expected because it kind of got messed up a couple times, so we had to start over.
Mm-hmm.
Our freeze periods were very short, our non-freeze periods. So we had freezes like normal, but the window between beta freeze and final freeze was 1 week, and so there wasn't a whole lot of churn. As a consequence, I think we're actually in a relatively, like, I'm not super happy about having a tiny window in which to get things fixed that came up during beta, but we seem to have had, at least from the Fedora KDE side, we've done really well for ourselves in terms of making sure everything's gravy. We did Plasma 6 very early. We started shipping alpha snapshots and then betas and release candidates and all of that stuff very early on. And as a consequence, I think this is probably the most rock solid Fedora KDE release we've done in ever, really. In all the years that I've been using Fedora KDE, I think it has been so good. I have been running pre-release on every single one of my computers for about a month now.
Wow.
It was like literally 3 days after the Plasma 6 GA landed in Fedora 40, like again at the end of February, beginning of March. I was like, I can't take it anymore, and I upgraded everything. And so all of my machines have been running Fedora beta since I think March 6th. So that is a solid month of doing that.
Yeah.
So and it's been fine.
Wow. That's good to hear.
Even the machine that I'd be like, I really shouldn't upgrade this, but like, I don't like Plasma 5 anymore, so I want Plasma 6, so I upgraded. But, we also shook out a lot of bugs related to distribution upgrades. We made sure all the upgrade paths are in place. We did a good job making sure that those are done. And almost every member of the team has actually done at least one graphical upgrade and one command line upgrade, and we made sure all that stuff works. We are in a good position when it comes to Fedora KDE this cycle. And it is honestly, I think, if I look at it from holistically, for the Fedora variants, I would say that Fedora KDE is probably the most put together variant this cycle.
You're not a biased source of this data.
Well, I mean, there have been times where we've not been so good.
Right.
And like Fedora 39 was a mess. And I am not happy about that release at all. It was not. I think the only upside to that release is we got like literally the absolute latest Plasma 527 point release landed in for 39 stable. But the reason that happened was because it dragged on for so long that we could keep updating it. And it's just like, come on! At some point, we gotta do this.
Well, I guess there's the silver lining.
And Workstation's done pretty well for themselves this cycle too. Like, so I upgraded my my laptop that runs Fedora Workstation a couple of weeks ago, and it's been okay. GNOME releases don't really change all that much from release to release anymore. Sometimes they have interesting things, but most of the time, not much. I really can't, like, again, not as plugged into GNOME as I am in KDE. You can be the judge of how relative that being plugged into means. But I think the big feature that I would say is really interesting for this GNOME release for Fedora 40 is the headless login and the headless virtual desktop stuff. Like being able to have a headless GNOME session and be able to log into it remotely through RDP.
Yeah, people are told
that is a big deal.
I've been told so many times that this is a reason why they can't use, like, oh, I can't use Wayland, I can't use Wayland. Like, I need like my headless session. Like, I get it. Like, that's fair.
I mean, I've just been waypiping all the things, so I don't really care.
Sure.
I don't need the full desktop session remotely. I have a desktop session locally. I can just waypipe the application remotely. In fact, before I switched to making this laptop sit here on the desk, it was in the other room, and I was waypiping all the applications from there onto this computer.
Hey, it works. It works. Might as well.
Hey, it also meant that the noise wasn't a problem.
That is true. There's your solution.
If I can't figure out a way to deal with it. Yeah, well, yeah. Oh.
Just
the only thing I can't really do is I can't use it that way for streaming because the camera has to be plugged into the computer that I'm using it with.
Yeah, use a Droid Cam. Do it over Wi-Fi.
Yeah. No.
So, one thing that I do want you to clarify for people who are just not at all aware, because it's been a mess, is what is actually happening with Fedora 40 KDE Wayland. Because there was the whole stuff at the beginning, then there were discussions, like there's been like Phoronix articles and there's been confusion about it. People have no idea what is actually happening. So when Fedora 40 KDE ships, what are people getting?
All right. All right, let's do this. Okay, so the Fedora 40 change stands. From the Fedora KDE 6 perspective, who is the owner of the change and the maintainer of the KDE Plasma stack, KDE Plasma 6 is Wayland only. That is the perspective of the KDE Plasma stack. That is what we've agreed with FESCO and Council, that is the only part we are going to support. Now, that all being said, there was a kerfuffle.
That's one way to put it. We don't have to get into that. We don't need to get you into trouble.
There was a kerfuffle. And the outcome of the kerfuffle is that a couple of individual packagers are now maintaining a Plasma X11 session, which is two packages. Quinn built for X11 and Plasma Workspace X11. So those two components are not maintained by the KDE SIG. They are not supported by the KDE SIG. All bugs filed against the KDE SIG for this stuff will either be redirected or closed. They are not allowed to be considered blocking. They are not allowed to intercept or cause trouble for the KDE SIG for maintaining Plasma Desktop. But they are allowed to exist. And that is the current state of the world. So they are in the repositories. They are not supported by the KDE SIG. And from KDE Upstream's perspective, Fedora is not really dealing with Plasma X11. We are still, from the engagement and relationship perspective, Plasma Wayland.
Right.
So it is there. You can install it. But as soon as you're using it, you fall out of the realm of community support for Plasma from Fedora, from the Fedora KDE SIG. Because it is not a mode we support, and it's not a mode we've been testing.
My understanding is the X11 stuff upstream is very much considered like secondary as well at this point. Like they've still are patching certain things, but it's like they're not getting rid of it because they don't need. It's not blocking anything. But my understanding is if it ever gets to a point where it is like actually blocking a release and is actually becoming a serious problem to maintain, it's on the cards to just get rid of it.
Yeah, that is more or less where I think we sit upstream as well. The way I think it's going to shake out is we're going to see the X11 code being increasingly carved out and centralized into discrete places, and then punted out. And then it will live and die on its own accord. I don't know what that's going to look like or when that's going to happen, but I feel that that's probably how it's going to go out. From the perspective of KDE as a community and the maintainers of the various components, Quinn X11 has been deprecated since 2018.
Is that long? Jeez, okay.
It's been a long, long time. It has been feature frozen and it has been locked down since 2018.
I don't know if you'll find a link, an easy link to it.
Quinn X11 18. Yeah, so Quinn X11, January 16th, 2018. Here you go.
Thank you. Ah, it's a Martin blog post. Okay, easy.
That was all the way back in Plasma 5.12.
I think that was... you know, I was making videos back then. I just don't think it crossed my radar. I don't think I cared about Wayland back then. To be fair, I don't think a lot of people
Nobody
cared about...
did.
Yeah, no one cared about it. When did Fedora start shipping Wayland? I think it would have been around that
Fedora
time.
34... So Fedora Workstation shipped Wayland starting in Fedora 23.
Which it... I always forget it's that early. Jesus Christ.
I think it's Fedora 23.
That sounds too early. Surely it's not that long ago.
Do we have Wayland in here? No, we don't. What is it? Fedora 24 then. Fedora 24 was GNOME 320. Nope. Fedora 25.
Just go through every version until he finds it.
Yeah, I think this is the one, actually. Fedora 25 is the one with GNOME 322, and that was the one where we went Wayland by default, because that was what upstream GNOME did. So it was supposed to be a downstream. That is 2016.
Okay. So, okay, a bit earlier than I thought then. Okay. Yeah, so Quinn went feature frozen in 2018.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't think most people realize that, actually. Like, there's a lot of people I still see who are like, use X11. Like, yeah, you can. Like, it's an option. It's there. But, like...
So the login screen went Wayland in Fedora Workstation in Fedora 22 in 2015. It was the same release that Plasma 5 was introduced in Fedora. So the login screen went Wayland in 2015, and the whole desktop for GNOME went Wayland in 2016.
That was not a... Look, I think it's fair to say, back then,
I think
Wayland wasn't ready.
I feel...
That's not uncontroversial.
I think I feel good about waiting until Fedora 34 with Plasma 5.20 to do it for, for Fedora KDE.
Like, just basic things, you know, screencasting, that was a problem.
Well, you also got to remember that back in 2015, people didn't do screencasting that much, so it didn't come up.
Yeah.
Like, OBS Studio was ported to Linux, what, 2 years prior to that?
Okay,
it wasn't that long ago.
Because
it used to be, because the Open Broadcaster software was originally Windows only.
Yeah. It originally started, I think it's like a StarCraft application. Applications to capture StarCraft, if I remember the original story, but yeah, something like that.
Right. Yeah, and it just wasn't a thing people thought about back then.
I guess that's fair. I don't. Right? I guess people didn't screen share as much in like Skype and stuff back then either.
Well, it didn't. It wasn't a thing you could do
Wasn't it?
in most of them.
Okay.
Like I
Maybe it
like
is newer than I thought.
Zoom did it
Mm.
in, I want to say, 2017 was when they introduced the feature for screen sharing on Linux, because it didn't exist at all in the beginning. And then they very quickly added the support for GNOME's private protocol to do it. Because in 2019,
things interacting with.
Well, because in 2019, RHEL 8 came out and it was Wayland by default.
Okay.
And so they had to. And then it was during Fedora 34's development that I started poking the Zoom people to port over to the portals. And I bugged them for 18 months until they did it. I will always remember how much crap I had to give them to make them actually do it.
And there are still people that think that it doesn't actually work.
Well, so the problem is, you need to lie to Zoom and tell it you're running GNOME for it to work on any desktop. Because they never removed the stupid guard that says that it needs for it to be a GNOME private protocol.
Oh.
It doesn't use the GNOME private protocol, but it still thinks you have to run GNOME for it to work.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Arch Wiki right now. Yeah, that you have to say you're.
I'm the one that discovered that in the first place.
You have to set your XDG current desktop to GNOME.
Yeah, I have a desktop file override on my computer to force that, because otherwise it just doesn't work.
That's so dumb.
I know.
Surely it can't be that hard for them to fix it, but they probably don't care.
Well, I no longer have a big stick to hit them with. I don't work for a company that uses Zoom everywhere.
That's a fair point.
So, like, I used to work at a company that used Zoom everywhere and paid a lot of money for it. So I could, I had a big stick.
I know other Red Hat people watch this. One of you, please, start emailing Zoom.
They don't use Zoom at Red Hat. They don't use Zoom at Red Hat.
Don't they?
They use Google Meet.
Who can we bother? Who can we use to bother them? What company uses Zoom?
If you have a friend at Oracle that you would like to get in touch with to get them
I don't know anyone at Oracle, sadly.
Yeah.
If any of the Red Hat people happen to know someone at Oracle, reach out to them.
Look, man, that is a stretch in itself.
Maybe, I don't know. Can't hurt to try.
I mean, I got Red Hat people in touch with Zoom people, Jonas Adal and a few others, to actually work with Zoom to get it done, and it did get implemented. And so it is in place, and Zoom has it. The problem is that it still has the GNOME guard. The GNOME guard doesn't make any sense at all, but it's still there. And so in order to use it, you have to lie to Zoom. And every once in a while, it comes up in the Fedora KDE mailing list. It's like, hey, I'm trying to use, I can't use KDE Wayland because I use Zoom and Zoom doesn't work. And I'm like, look, here you go. Just edit your desktop file and tell Zoom you're running GNOME. If you tell Zoom you're running GNOME, everything works. If it doesn't work still after that, go into the Zoom settings and tell it to use Pipewire. Because there's a Pipewire toggle that it sometimes doesn't auto-detect and use. If you tell it you're using Pipewire, then everything will work.
Thankfully, everything
you
just said is written on the Arch Wiki, so it's not like they have to dig too far to find it.
But people still don't.
My point is that the information is out there, so if you just don't want to explain it to them, just point them to section 2.51 of the Arch Wiki. That's stupid. That's so stupid.
It's incredibly dumb. It is horrible. So that's Zoom, right? Then we look at Discord. So Discord I have talked to people at Discord before about it. Other people have also talked to people at Discord about it. The problem for Discord is that they gutted Electron's own pipeline for screen sharing and wrote their own.
Yes, they did. Yup.
To be fair, Chromium's screenshotting and screen casting system is not performant enough for game streams.
Right.
So it makes a ton of sense that they would do that. But it does mean that they have to spend a lot of extra work rewriting how that whole thing works to do this.
Yeah.
It's going to be a while.
Yeah, my understanding is there are people at Discord that want to better support Linux. Like I've heard there are like talks with individual people there about supporting the Flatpak officially and also doing portals. My understanding is they just don't really have that much in the way of Linux developers. Oh, you good?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought something died.
Sorry, somebody just pinged me. And I was just like, oh, okay, well. But yeah, like, the other problem is that portals are sometimes not easy to integrate because depending on how your application is architected, this might actually be hard. This is one of the reasons why libportal now exists. Libportal is a very easy library to support adding portals to existing applications. And as part of the Plasma 6 bring up, I went and ported the Qt 5 bindings for libportal to Qt 6. So there are now Qt 6 bindings for it. So anybody that's like moving up from Qt 5 to 6, they can still use libportal. There are also other things, like if you're using Rust, you've got the Ash PD crate that lets you do it too. There's a few others out there, like those things are going to make it easier for portals to be integrated and supported. But it's still going to take a lot of time. And bluntly, if you're outside of GNOME or KDE, the portal system sucks for you.
Yeah.
Because like so some background here.
Okay.
The WL Roots ecosystem, of course, as you know, is seeded by Sway. Now, Sway, Drew DeVault is, I think, fairly well known for not liking dbus and a lot of this other stuff. And so Sway doesn't use dbus IPC. It uses its own custom IPC it uses the i3 IPC for being able to do configuration of real-time configuration of the compositor. But it also doesn't actually support dbus as part of its interaction model. And if you look at XD, and that means that they don't have a portal backend. And that's why XDG Desktop Portal WLR exists, right? XDG Desktop Portal WLR is essentially a basic portal backend that bridges the dbus protocols with Wayland protocols that correspond to the features. The only stuff that's currently supported is screen copy, which is mapped to screenshot and screencast and not very well mapped to those. So it's not the greatest experience in the world.
My favorite part of the WL Roots experience is the not being able to capture individual windows.
So this is why Neri re-implements Mutter's private protocols to be able to use the GNOME portal backend.
I didn't know Neri did that. Neri does a lot of cool things then. Huh.
Yeah, Neri is, I think, the first WL Roots compositor that re-implements the GNOME private APIs.
For anyone who's not sure, Neri is like the scrollable compositor, which is
that's the Paperwhim. That's the Paperwhim re-implementation. So that thing, what's special about it, aside from being written in Rust, making it painful for me to look at, but it actually has re-implementations of Mutter's private dbus protocols, which means that Mutter and Neri cannot run at the same time on a system. But it means that Neri can then use XDG Desktop Portal GNOME.
Yeah, see, they have it written right here on their feature list. Huh.
Yep.
Oh, and you can block out sensitive windows from screencasts. Oh, that's cool.
Because the GNOME and KDE portal backends are really advanced. You can do a lot with them that you can't do with the other ones, whereas everyone else is stuck with the WLR one.
Mm-hmm. Huh. That's cool. Maybe I should. I like what's I generally like the KDE portal. There's currently it's not a KDE issue. There is a wire plumber issue that is causing issues in the KDE portal where
I know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of the Wire Plumber 0.5 has been a very interesting release.
Mm-hmm.
It is people have had very interesting problems with it.
Mm-hmm.
Like part of the reason I was a little late to this was because I was trying to get the audio sources to not do the wrong thing. Was because I couldn't get Wire Plumber to stop selecting the wrong thing. I don't actually know why, because it wasn't doing that before.
That. Yeah, I've been opening up OBS, and it's like I'm just gonna choose like the camera as your default audio input. Like, no, that's not what I've set. Stop it! Don't do that. Yeah.
Exactly.
My issue is there is a this is a fun one where I capture my console 3 capture card, and I use the like my capture card has like an output from it that I can just send back to my screen so I can like monitor it as I'm using it. I use that to play the game instead of playing it on like the OBS capture. I know some people are happy to do that. I don't like the delay of the OBS capture. Now, when I do this, I have to change the input of my monitor from the display port to HDMI, which is what the capture card is feeding into for my monitor. When I do this, if I have a capture of my desktop in OBS, if I change my volume level, Wire Plumber segfaults, and then it segfaults, and then it segfaults, and then it segfaults. I've reported this to the devs, and they know about the problem. I've sent them a log, and hopefully they fix it in the next version. That would be lovely.
I am really hoping I don't hit that problem when I start trying to stream.
Do you want to know my workaround for it?
Yeah, what is it?
So stupid. So I open up Plasma, I disconnect my main monitor, I then quit out of Plasma and come back into it, so OBS doesn't even try to capture it. It doesn't even acknowledge that it exists.
I think my solution is just not have two monitors.
That's a good solution. Fine. Yeah. It also happens
because I only have one monitor actually active when the laptop is sitting here. Like the laptop's built-in display is switched off.
Also be cautious if you are capturing an individual window and you close the window, the same problem will happen. It seems to be an issue where it's trying to access a null window. It's
accessing a resource that's already freed. It's a use after free.
Yeah. Hopefully it's not a difficult one.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fun. That's just broken reference counting. That's fine.
See, this is my what I had to say about like Pipewire and Wire Plumber. It's been so good for a long time. I think the devs finally realized that software's supposed to have bugs, and they're like, let's just inject some.
That would be awful. Oh my god!
It's meant to use after free. That would be awful. It hopefully isn't that crazy to fix.
Yeah, I think that like my experience so far has been that. Actually, you want to talk about a weird portal bug?
Sure.
Here's a weird portal bug. I mentioned earlier that Snapshot doesn't work on my laptop. The reason why Snapshot doesn't work is that there's a race condition between Snapshot, the application, launching a window and it connecting to the portal backend. The portal backend just will always deny an application that has no window ability to access resources, including the camera. So if it tries to do them in parallel and one of them wins faster than the other, you get no camera.
Right.
Yeah. This is where the debug stuff starts falling down.
We love race conditions. Race conditions are my favorite.
Yeah, well, async programming is awful. It is really hard to do. It really doesn't matter what programming language you're doing in this in. Like, well, okay, I think like Erlang, it's actually quite nice to do, but I don't like writing Erlang code, and I only had to do it when I was dealing with RabbitMQ in a job a long time ago, and I don't really want to do that again. But outside of Erlang, concurrency is pretty hard to actually do well. And so it doesn't surprise me that people really struggle to do this effectively. So I think what the solution is going to be is something stupid, like we're just going to add a sleep to make it take longer to before we start like sending the signals. So hopefully the window will be up before we send the signal, so it's always going to work.
That, it's a...
Because the workaround is that you go into GNOME settings and you go into the camera portal settings and you go and activate it and enable it manually before you ever launch the application. But it has to fail once so it shows up in the list so you can turn it on.
Right. That doesn't sound like a good UX.
No. No, it's not. I mean, to be fair, like if I want to talk about on the KDE side, one of the things that irritates the crap out of me with portals is that when I'm using Chrome to screen share, it'll launch the portal window. My computer will stutter for a couple of seconds while it tries to grab all the handles for all the windows on my screen. And then it will load. I will select something. I will click it, and it will then stutter again while it reloads the dialog because I have to select it a second time. The portals are fantastic. I love them. But gosh, really, these are the kinds of little things that are just like, yes, I know it's actually not the desktop portal's fault. In this case, it is something goofy with Chromium. I know. Other people know. This is something that's being worked on. But it still sucks.
Yeah. What do you do? What do you do?
I go and watch anime. Like, the new season of anime stuff is out, and and I found out like a little while ago that Detective Conan's being dubbed in English again, and I was just like, oh, heck yes. And so I have been catching up on Detective Conan now, and I'm so happy that I don't have to stare at the bottom third of my screen while I have to read everything that everyone is saying, because I'm a filthy dubber.
Yeah, I don't... Just learn Japanese.
Nan desu ka?
So yeah, just learn enough where you can like piece it together. Don't even be good at it.
Okay, I see. No. I do know a little. I know bits and pieces from watching anime for so long, and
you can
a lot of anime that I watch is sub only, right? So it like Crunchyroll just gives you only sub only stuff. Honestly, I'm really happy they've started expanding into offering dubbed stuff, because I vastly prefer things in English than having to read English and listen to Japanese.
I've just done it for so long that I don't really mind it. This is normal in my head
So
now.
have I. I don't mind it that much, but I still prefer English. It's
fair.
my language.
I get it.
It's the same reason why, if you go talk to German otaku, they'll say they want it in German.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess that's fair.
I mean, for a while I was watching Detective Conan in bloody Catalan because they were the only ones getting dubs for so long. And it's just like, well, I know Spanish a little bit. I know butchering bits and pieces of French. Is that enough to understand Catalan? Apparently, the answer to that is yes. It is enough to kind of understand Catalan.
You know what you could do? You could just watch the sub and not have to deal with that problem.
What do you think I do now? I just watch the sub most of the time for most things. But when something is actually available if something's available in English or Spanish, I'm actually willing to watch it in those languages.
Right.
Because while I don't speak Spanish, mostly being out of practice, if I hear it, I actually understand it most of the time. Because Spanish is not hard for me to understand. It's a very regular, very nice, easy to learn language compared to French, which I don't like at all. I don't like French. French and I are not friends.
So besides obviously Detective Conan, as people can probably assume from your profile picture everywhere that you exist, what is on the list of Neal Gompa anime?
That's a great question that every once in a while I have to really rethink, because I am ADD about my anime too. But like, I think right now, So I am rewatching Yu-Gi-Oh! A
Okay.
bunch because
Original series?
original series is, I already rewatched season 0 and I've been watching Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters, which is the seasons that most people know.
Yeah.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters is what it was called in Japan. Everyone else just calls it Yu-Gi-Oh! I distinguish because it's very complicated when you bring up the fact that the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Was also Yu-Gi-Oh! And that's it. Yeah, anyway. So I was rewatching the original series, and then I actually, like, on a lark, decided, you know what, let's watch the current one, which is Yu-Gi-Oh! Sevens. It is stupid and campy and funny and has, like, no mysticism at all. But I'm here for it. It's fun. It's lightweight. I don't really care.
Every so often I get like a Yu-Gi-Oh short, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? Like, it'll be like one of the games people play. I don't know what the popular one is. I don't really care. But I'm like, what the hell are these mechanics? I don't. What are we doing?
I have lost track of what the heck's going on. Like, as far as I made it all the way to synchro summoning. I think I'm good there. Like, I made it to synchro summoning, but everything else that happened after that, like XZ summon, I still don't know how that works. I don't know how, like, I know pendulum stuff because that was with synchro summoning and tuners and like, it's just. And then now there's rush duels, which is a whole different type of thing, which we don't have in the English-speaking world. That's still Japan only. But it's got different set of rules, and it's got a different board. It's got different set of cards. It's a whole different thing. And I was just like, you know what? I'm here to watch the show, and I'm amused by the characters.
Anime pals. Just don't even think about it.
Yeah,
they break the rules in the anime anyway, so just don't think about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, look, season 1 of Yu-Gi-Oh! Was like card games meets Dungeons and Dragons. Like, that's literally how that worked. And it's just like, okay, we now have monsters that can chant spells in the background because the player says they are, and they do stuff because we say they do. The knight can go strike at the field, and the field will do something because that's how that works. No, that's not how that works at all. But sure, let's do that.
Yep, it's fine. Just have fun with it. Doesn't matter. Don't think about it.
Yep, it's yep. So I've been rewatching the Yu-Gi-Oh stuff, mostly because, like, it's been such a long time, and I realized that it actually holds up surprisingly well. The first series really does hold up fairly well. Yu-Gi-Oh! GX is also fun, and actually, and 5Ds is, I don't know, a little weird. There was but
my
like,
first Yu-Gi-Oh series was 5Ds, so there's some
really.
there.
So you started with D wheels and like and dual, race duels.
Yeah, and then I think, like, stuff aired weirdly in Australia. Like, they just, like, swap back and forth every so often between 5Ds GX and the original series. So.
Oh yeah, some countries did that. It made things very confusing.
Yeah, but I maybe I'll go back and watch it at some point. I don't know. It could be fun.
I probably should go back and watch more of that stuff too. So the other thing that's on my thing is Yashahime, Princess Half Demon. I found out that it got dubbed, and it's actually available on Crunchyroll in dubbed form. And I'm like, heck yes, I'm here for this. I loved Inuyasha, and it's on my to-do list to rewatch Inuyasha at some point. There is no bloody way I'm rewatching all of Detective Conan again. It took me an entire summer vacation to catch up through 450 episodes back when it was only at like 600-ish. That's not happening ever again. I'm not doing that. But what I will probably do at some point is find, like, all the plot relevant episodes for Detective Conan. Because most of it's episodic and it doesn't matter.
Right.
But like, if you go to, like, some of the Detective Conan fan sites, they have these indexes of plot relevant episodes, and you'll find out that of 1,100 episodes, it's like less than 100 that are plot relevant. And so it's actually really easy to catch up if you just skip everything else. And then you really get to see how the quality has gone up in anime, because that show's been going on for 25 years. And so you get to see all the art styles for the same cast.
Yeah, I'm watching through One Piece right now, so I know exactly what you mean.
Oh yeah, no, One Piece is another example of that. Although, like, man, I really should watch One Piece again. Like, so I got turned off by One Piece because of the whole dub transition thing.
Mhm.
Like, because it started out with 4 kids dubbing it, and that was a mess.
Yep.
Uh, and
Yep.
then it transitioned to Funimation, and by that time I was like juggling a bunch of different anime shows, and so it didn't kind of. I watched a few episodes of it. It was good, but like it didn't hold my attention because I was watching Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood because I hated the original Full Metal Alchemist. That actually went out pretty well too. I think they did a good job with the tighter FMA Brotherhood.
Mhm.
But yeah, so like, and also My Hero Academia. I've been watching that like a couple of years ago.
Season
I
7
got
is about to
recommended
start.
it, and it's what?
Season 7 is about to start.
Oh, geez,
I
I
think.
need to catch up faster.
Oh, it's like okay. It's
I'm only
still a
on
month
season
away.
4 right now.
Starts in 24 days.
I'm only I am only at season 4 right now. I got to catch up faster.
Don't worry, we're like very. I reckon we're like a season or two from the entire series being over. So
Oh, okay. So that'll. Oh, wow. We're actually going to end after 8 seasons.
I that'll be nice because the manga's getting very close to ending as
Uh,
well. So yeah.
yeah. Detective Conan being close to ending is a shock, actually.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. So like, uh, um, it was announced a couple of years ago that
Mhm.
they had that the concept of how the show would how the series would end has already been figured out.
Mhm.
And so we're heading towards an end game eventually. Well,
Mhm.
I remember when this happened with Naruto, right? Like Naruto was dragging on forever, and it's just like, yeah, we're working towards the end. And then suddenly it was like, holy crap, what the heck's going on?
Mhm.
We're
Mhm.
suddenly like plot relevant, like every episode now. What the heck?
Mhm. Mhm. And now,
Most of the time, I don't read manga.
I was gonna say now Boruto has its Shippuden out now.
Oh my gosh! So they're
Is
literally turning time skip into a meme for
it
them.
is Boruto Blue Vortex. Uh, Boruto is he's literally just Sasuke at this point.
I mean, that was the whole reason I was turned off by Bolt in the first place.
Mhm.
Like yes, I know Boruto, but
Bolt,
it's
no, Bolt,
Bolt.
Bolt the dog. That's what we're gonna call it.
Yeah. So Bolt, it became very obvious to me that Bolt is Sasuke
Right.
2.0,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and that was annoying. I mean, from my perspective, I don't find Sasuke as a particularly compelling character.
Mhm.
He is not interesting to me. I think he's dumb, and like his characterization sucks.
Mhm.
And seeing that made into a protagonist just made it worse. He is not like he's not Ashura. None of the transmigration stuff is a thing anymore.
Mhm.
Like, or if it is, I'm going to be mad because it really that was aside from the fact that it is a whole thing talking about transmigration in the in ninja world. Like, whatever. I don't want that concept back again. It's probably going to show up because the bloody Rinnegan is going to show up again somehow. And whenever it does, we're all in for a world of stupid. Because the Rinnegan, while is a um, super fun dojutsu or eye technique, bloodline thing,
Mhm. Mhm.
it is basically OP and broken, and it basically results in God mode for whoever has it. And while that is fun to think about, it makes for the stories kind of sucking a bit.
This is why I just turn my brain off and I'm like, ooh, funny lights.
Yes, I actually most of the time turn my brain off when I'm watching this stuff. But like, if you ask me to like think about it and give recommendations, this all comes out, and it's just like, you know
Yeah.
what?
Yeah. No, I get
But
that.
like, so My Hero Academia,
Mhm.
Yashahime is on my list. I actually recently watched The Devil is a Part-Timer season 2 because it got dubbed.
Okay.
It was released actually a couple of years ago, but apparently nobody noticed, including me. And then I
Yeah,
found
it
out and
wasn't
I
as
watched
popular
it,
as the
and
first
it's
season. Yeah, for sure.
but it was good. I really enjoyed it.
I don't think I actually sat down and watched season 2. Might have skipped.
Yeah, so it's a thing.
It is a thing, yes. I don't know how I didn't watch it.
And
Huh?
let's see. And I need to rewatch season 1 because when I watched season 2, I was in Spain for Academy,
Mhm.
and that was a couple of years ago. And apparently in Spain, season 1 is not available, but season 2 is. So, but here, and then it fell off. Yeah, I don't know how licensing rights works. It's so weird. And then when I came back to the States, I forgot that I wanted to watch season 1 again.
Mhm.
I have access to it. Then there was that the old man in from another world. Forget what it is, but like that show was interesting because it was like tons of references of the Sega Genesis being like the best console, the Sega Saturn being the best console ever.
Oh, okay. I didn't watch this one. This is another one that I skipped.
Yeah. Also, there's also Aesthetica of a Rogue Hero, which I'm pretty sure someone screwed up when they titled this because Aesthetica is not a word, and that makes no sense. But Aesthetics of a Rogue Hero is actually a cool show that I liked.
Oh, geez, that's okay. You're like, you just watch like whatever. It's like, oh, it's 25 years old. Came out last month. Let's watch that. Like, oh, geez, this is very much a 2012 anime. Oh my god. Oh my god, what is this?
Well, so you're also talking to the guy that went and actually spent the effort to go find all the classic Doctor Who and watch it in order.
Wow, that takes commitment.
Yep. I've got an art, like my media drive is precious because it's got things that you can't find anymore.
Mm-hmm.
One of which is an almost complete archive, as complete as I could get it, including that one episode that has been lost in the UK that was only recovered by some dude in Australia who recorded it on VHS. I have all of that, and I've watched all of the classic Doctor Who.
Wow. What if
it doesn't hold up?
What if I said I've never actually seen an episode of Doctor Who?
I think you need to turn in your nerd card.
Yeah, maybe you're right.
I would say you need to turn in your nerd card, especially since you live in a Commonwealth country.
Mm-hmm.
That would be absolutely insane if you had never ever seen an episode of Doctor Who. How in the world have you never seen an episode of Doctor Who?
I've probably seen...
You've got to be kidding.
I've probably seen bits and pieces, but I've never actually watched a full episode.
Oh my god. This has to be fixed. You live in a Commonwealth country.
I do.
Doctor Who's available to you from your local TV people. It is part of the thing you have access to. Go bloody watch it.
Maybe I will. Maybe I'll find some time to do that.
If you don't want to watch Classic Who, which I don't blame you,
mm-hmm.
you can at least watch the stuff from the 2005 series onward.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or if you have access to Disney, guess what? It is now on Disney worldwide for season 13, I think. Yeah, 13 onward. We're back to seasons, boys.
Oh god.
After because we can't agree on how the heck we're supposed to name these. I just consistently use series to refer to the show and seasons to refer to the parts of the show.
Mm-hmm.
In England, they flip this, which is weird, and then in everywhere else, it's a mixed bag.
Lovely.
Yeah, I know. Well, so this is why, like, the 2005 show, they call it Series 1.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, this makes no sense. Why is this series and not season?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it turns out between 1980 and 2005, the UK has mostly switched from using season to refer to seasons to using the word series to refer to seasons.
Thank you, UK. I appreciate it.
Yes. Right? Meanwhile, I don't think anyone else in the English-speaking world does this.
Look, English might be your language, but you're using it wrong.
Yeah. You were asking me about a show that I watched subtitled, or at least implying that I did. Magic Kaido. Magic Kaido is only available subtitled,
Mm-hmm,
but it's actually a ton of fun, and it's very short. It's not a particularly long series. I think it's like 12 episodes. And it's a quick watch.
mm-hmm.
And it's made by the same guy who made Detective Conan.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
And it's more on the magical, crazy side of things. It's a lot of fun.
Right.
Yeah, for some reason, I can't find... Oh, it's because the Funimation Crunchyroll merger, they still haven't imported all of my stuff.
Yeah, I've got some friends who are dealing with like subs that are not being merged over, and it's just a whole mess.
Yeah, well, like I paid for both Crunchyroll and Funimation.
Mm-hmm.
And now I don't pay for Funimation anymore because it's all just Crunchyroll, so I upped up my Crunchyroll sub.
Mm-hmm.
But like my data's not over there yet. So some of the stuff is just not showing up.
Great.
But also like because some of this stuff is just scattered everywhere, I have to do it in a bunch of different places. But like where is that show? Like it's bothering me that I can't find what is the Issei what's the isekai ones? Another World. One of these Another World things. Maybe it's gone now, but there was a show.
Mm-hmm.
Isekai show. Sega Saturn. Meme. One of these. Oh, Isekai Oji-san. So
yes,
uncle
yes,
from
it is
another
one of
world.
those. Yes.
That one was just funny as heck. That one's great. Oh, it's on Netflix. That's why I can't find it. It's on the other one.
We love Netflix anime. It's great. Yay.
But like that one is a lot of fun, and I think that one is also dual language, subbed and dubbed.
Mm-hmm.
And that one's been a lot of fun. I am seeing why the isekai genre has become a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's basically how people get to play with self-insert, like self-insert fan fiction.
Yeah.
In official productions, and it's very funny.
Mm-hmm.
Now we just need crossovers to happen more.
That'd be fun.
Like, honestly, one of the most fun things I ever watched from an anime movie perspective was the Detective Conan Lupin the Third crossovers. Those are a thing.
I know that I've once seen Netflix anime. Netflix is doing a Baki versus Kengan Ashura. So I don't know.
Wow.
I don't know what the hell.
Why?
They've basically just made Death Battle.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, I figured that much out. Digimon Adventure 2020. Oh, there's a new Digimon Adventure. What?
This is just turned into us talking about anime.
Well, I mean, this is Tech Over Tea, but it turns out we also do anime here too.
Yeah, sometimes it really.
I mean, to be fair, I have watched one of your podcast episodes where literally you did spend half the time talking about anime.
You are
and
right.
Other
yes, it does happen. The tech is just a suggestion. I should put tech asterisk and then footnote it.
Yes, you should. Well, yeah, I don't know. Is there a T a word that starts with T that just means random stuff? Because then that would work better. Because I'm pretty sure you did the Tech Over T for alliteration.
Yeah. I'll open a thesaurus later and see if I can find something.
Synonym for stuff. Because I feel like I should. Okay. Well, textile doesn't really help.
No.
That's not useful.
No, not really. Yeah, I'm sure someone will give me a word.
Oh my gosh, some of these are just not appropriate at all. Things over T is just dumb. So that's not gonna happen.
No.
Wow. This is really not they're not good words.
No. I think it's fine. I think we'll keep the name for now. It's fine.
Yeah, it's gonna get changed at some point.
One day,
you're gonna come up with a new alliteration that makes it. Well, maybe you'll do something with S's instead of T's.
I don't want to give the first thing that came to my mind there.
Yeah, don't do that one. I know what came to your mind. No.
Anyway, we probably should be ending this off at some point because we're past the 2-hour mark now.
I mean, we don't. I mean, whatever you want to do. Like I made time for you.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like we made sure this time that we're both okay.
Mm-hmm. I got some stuff to do
like,
later in the day though, so maybe we should end it off.
You have stuff to do during the day?
Yeah, I do. That's when I do my like video recording and stuff. So I got videos to record after this. I'm assuming you don't. You just do everything at night.
Well, I either do it in the early morning or the late evening.
Okay.
Actually, we never actually talked about Fedora changes. The whole thing, we never actually talked about how changes work.
No, we didn't at all. We can talk about that. That's fine by me.
Sure. Yeah. No. What do you want to know?
Okay. So, when a change proposal happens, like what for people that don't like understand, like what is a change proposal?
I mean, it's kind of self-descriptive. It's a proposal for a change.
Right. But like people don't really have an understanding of like what that means internally in the project, like how this is handled, like what sort of process is done with it.
So it basically starts from someone has an idea and they want to do something that is marketable and project wide. One of the two. A lot of times you see changes as stuff that's like, well, why do I care? Well, someone is proud about it and it's something self-contained. And so that's a lot of self-contained changes are things that they want to advertise at a project level that they're doing that they think is cool. But system-wide changes are changes that are essentially descriptions of things that we're changing across the whole distribution. And that's where things that tend to be affecting release blocking status have multiple stakeholders, that sort of thing. Change proposals are fundamentally someone has sat down long enough to think about the consequences of what they want to do, and they wrote it out. Now, the reason we go through this process is actually twofold. The first reason is to make sure that all the things have been thought of from the community perspective so that it can be deliberated by the Fedora Engineering Steering Committee, FESCO. The second reason is less obvious. This is how RHEL can silently accept or reject any change that has been made into Fedora for RHEL. So, some pulling back the curtain thing, every single change that gets submitted into Fedora and then gets on FESCO's desk is then mirrored into Red Hat internally to also make a separate decision by the RHEL Council. So the RHEL Council functions the same way that FESCO does. And they make the same kinds of decisions for RHEL. So they do technical decisions, they do marketing decisions, they do focus decisions, they do structural decisions, that sort of thing. So the RHEL Council and FESCO, the RHEL Council being Red Hat internal only, FESCO being the public one that represents Fedora, those two sides make judgments independently of the same change. So, for example, the change to add frame pointers in Fedora 38. The Fedora Engineering Steering Committee, after lots of debate, hot, and craziness, and me burning capital all over the place, to make it happen, the Red Hat side, the RHEL Council declined to accept the change at that time. That means that as things currently stand right now, unless they decide to change their mind sometime between now and, I don't know, whenever they decide their cutoff is for when they want to make big changes like this, which for all I know is like the end of this year or something like that, because RHEL 10 is going to release in May 2025. Like, that's a given. RHEL 9 released in May 2022. 3 years from May 2022 is May 2025. If you can't math, I can't help you. Sometime between now and then, if Red Hat decides that they want to accept the change, they can incorporate it as part of that, and then they do the same process that we do, which is when that change is accepted, people are able to implement it, and it gets recorded in as part of release notes and documentation. So a change proposal includes the statement of the description of change, the statement of change, the rationale of the change, and the mechanics of the change and the documentation of the change.
Mm-hmm.
Each of these things are filled in over time or adjusted or refined and then eventually exported to make it for the rest of the stuff, rest of the process, which is marketing for when they do it on social media or in magazine posts. They do it for documentation by throwing it into things like the release notes and the manuals and things like that. Fedora doesn't produce manuals anymore. We used to. We don't anymore. But that used to be part of the process where we would make those and pull those things into manuals. But RHEL does, so they take that same information and they use it to feed into their books that they have on docs.redhat.com about Red Hat Enterprise Linux documentation. Mm-hmm. And then the last part is it's a record of what has been done to evolve the project and to evolve the distribution. And this is actually the most important factor because other distributions use Fedora's change records as a way to do their own changes. It is very common to see another distribution say, oh yeah, we want to do this. Here's what Fedora did, and here's how they did it. Let's more or less take that and implement it ourselves. I firmly believe this is a big part of why Fedora has such a strong leadership aspect to it, because we're one of the few distributions that writes everything down.
So as an example of this, there's something like recently Arch is changing their VM max map count. And I believe in their thing they reference Fedora.
They reference the Fedora change. Yeah. I mean, the frame pointers stuff, so Arch has turned on frame pointers, that also references the Fedora change. Ubuntu, they turned on frame pointers and they didn't reference us, which I'm a little salty about because we did.
They're also doing VM max map count. I don't know if they mentioned it in their thing, but that is also happening.
They didn't.
Okay.
It's hit or miss whether they wind up mentioning Fedora for things that we've done first. I really don't know why that's the case, because it's not unusual for if Ubuntu does something first that we mention it. And it would be nice if it happened.
It probably comes up in internal discussions, whether they mention it publicly or not,
Yeah, I mean, it's almost certainly happening in internal discussions, but it should happen. Public acknowledgement is generally appreciated.
Right.
Lots of distributions do this. So, you look at OpenSUSE, for example, when we moved to Z standard compression for RPM in 2019, 2020, OpenSUSE, when they made the change, they referenced the Fedora change and the rationale for doing it. Arch Linux, when they moved to Z standard, referenced the Fedora change. Even though theirs went out to users faster, our change came first. So that was this happens a lot, and I think it's actually very valuable because it lets people understand why things are happening. And they can choose to disagree if they want. I mean, Red Hat does it with RHEL, and SUSE does it with OpenSUSE sometimes. But if they don't disagree with it, then at least they know, at least everyone knows what's going on.
Yep.
So that's really the biggest function of what a change document's for. When it is a proposal, it is an intention and it's a description of what you intend to do. When it is done, it is a description of what you have done.
Right.
And why.
I think it makes sense.
So then if you look at that from that lens and you look at every change proposal that's ever been made in Fedora, a lot of things start lining up. Like, how is Fedora a leader? How is all these other distributions able to quickly implement some of the same things that Fedora does? It's because we write it all down. But if you look at things that originate from other distributions, so for example, OpenSUSE started doing the thing where they moved distribution provided configuration files to a directory in user. They never actually outlined it anywhere. They never documented what they're doing and why. Their rationales are not clearly written out in one place. So it is actually difficult for other distributions to copy what they did.
Right.
So everyone else does it differently now. And so there's this incoherence that happens as a result of it. So OpenSUSE does things in user etc, which, again, I personally think that's not a good directory path to put things in, but that's what they went with. Fedora puts them in either user share or user lib or somewhere else that makes sense relative to the individual package. And then you have Solus and Serpent that does it in user share defaults.
Okay.
And because they have this whole stateless Linux thing, and it's not fully written out anywhere, but they have this whole thing of they they put everything in user shared defaults, and those are all there, and then they have their software patch to look at that location first, and then find all the other ones. That's their whole concept of stateless Linux, which is where all this actually started from.
Mhm.
But because this was never coherently described in a way that everyone could understand the starting point, the rationale, and the end state, everybody's doing it differently because no one knows what the right way is supposed to be and why.
I see. So by having everything written down, it makes it clear what is happening in Fedora, and it makes it clear that it also makes it easy to coordinate between different distros.
Right. The biggest thing that's really a side effect. The really important reason for this is it means that everyone understands what's going on.
Yeah. From my perspective of like going back and doing these videos, it is very, very easy to find when anything happens in Fedora. Like if I want to find out when Fedora switched to Pulse Audio or switched to System D and anything else like that, I can just, it's just there. Like I can just find it. If I want to find something like Arch has changed the way they handled packaging in the past before, finding where that was is a nightmare. Like I've got to go
right.
like find Reddit posts that reference that news post that maybe is still like in this location, but like it's not easy.
Right. And then you look at things like these change set pages, like the one for Fedora 40, right? This is literally a list of everything that has been incorporated into the Fedora 40 release.
So it basically is like a release note.
Yeah, so there are 29 system-wide changes and 26 self-contained changes.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes it 55. Mm-hmm. It's not the highest number ever, but it is pretty darn close.
Mm-hmm.
And every one of these changes is written out in such a way that you can understand what's going on and why.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And this has been a thing from the very beginning of Fedora. We used to call them features.
Mm-hmm.
We changed from features to changes, I think in Fedora 20. Fedora features.
Is there a change proposal about changing the change proposal?
Well, maybe. First class cloud images. That was Fedora 19. Let's see, what is Fedora 20? Okay, so Fedora 20 changed to change sets. So the feature process was replaced with the planning process in 20.
Mm-hmm.
So Fedora 20 was when we switched to that
mm-hmm.
with the change mechanism. And then before that, we were features.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, as an example of a feature list, yeah, this one. Fedora 19 is a fun one because that one was, that one was the one that I think introduced the Anaconda new UI, which back then the new UI.
Yeah, it's not new anymore.
Oh no, that was 19 was the follow-up. 18 was the one that was actually the new UI.
Okay.
Yeah, 18 was that. So, but you can see, like, we've been doing this for a very long time. Like, and if you go all the way back to Fedora 7...
Mm-hmm.
Oof. Sorry. So if you go all the way back to Fedora 7, we don't have a fancy table. We have this weird list of in-out partial.
Yeah, they've gotten much better at presenting it. That is for sure.
Yeah, so in Fedora 7... Fedora KDE was the first spin. Period.
Oh, okay.
Yep. A lot of people don't know this, but we were actually the early adopters and the drivers for a lot of under-the-hood enhancements and advancements within Fedora's release processes.
I like the summary. We need a KDE release for Fedora 7, that's all.
Yeah, well, back then, like, detail, you could tell we've gotten better at this.
Oh, yeah, no, it's better than most distros, even in this state, but yeah, nowadays...
That's real sad.
Details, create a live CD that is installable. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so this was... I remember when this stuff happened. It was such a long time ago.
But like this... Theming, include GTK Qt engine.
Yep.
There's a lot of opinions on that one.
Yep. But yeah, so like the core extras merge, which was what brought KDE into the main Fedora distribution back in Fedora 7, happened in that release. So did the feature of live CD. So did the ability to make a custom derivative. All of that stuff happened in the same release. And Fedora KDE was the flagship for that. They were the first. I think we even, I want to, yeah, because Fedora Prime was also KDE based. And then Fedora KDE happened, and so there you go. Like it was the first spin. Oh, Nouveau came out that release too. That's how old it is. Like Nouveau was the same release that Fedora KDE spin became a thing.
Oh my god. Yeah, this is a crazy release.
Yo. Like Fedora, like back then, this was still considered detailed. Look at this. Feature render. Xrandr became a thing in Fedora 7.
Wait, render as well?
Yeah, that was there.
Oh my god. Well,
again, these were not detailed. Look at that. Render 1.2. Server supports render. Add render support. Requires changes.
Test plan, nothing. Dependencies, nothing. Details, nothing.
Even if you don't know you want it, you want it.
Yeah, God. People take for granted that render exists, but...
Right, it didn't exist in the beginning. Like, when I first used Linux, we did not have the ability to change the monitor configuration while the system was running. You had to log out and log back in again, or you had to reboot.
Yep.
Most of the time, you had to reboot. Like, but you know, you look at a Fedora 7 feature versus a Fedora 40 feature, a Fedora 40 change, right?
You take
and then you go
DNF5, for example. I don't know.
Oh, that's Fedora 41.
Oh, 41, so okay. KDE change, I don't know.
Yeah, the KDE change, right? Like the KDE, like, I mean, the KDE change in Fedora 7 and the KDE change in Fedora 40 are completely different. They're like, you can see how much more filled out it is. The quality and the details of documentation are an order of magnitude higher. But at the same time, it means everyone else can now do this. Other people are going to follow in our footsteps. I believe Chaos has already done it, and we'll see if others do.
Yeah,
right. So
the difference is that difference, man.
It's a big difference. It's a very big difference.
Well,
hi, there you.
Yeah,
there you go. That's changes in a nutshell. It's effectively a way to coordinate, document, and validate that you've done what you're supposed to do, and other people can repeat what you've done. And I think it's a crucial part of what makes Fedora a leader in the ecosystem. Other distributions just don't do this. Like, they really don't. Arch just kind of started doing an RFC process. And maybe we'll see this in more distributions, but it's really not a common thing. And even RFCs, like, they aren't necessarily detailed like these are. And the reason why Fedora changes are so detailed is because we know implicitly that each Fedora change gets judged by our downstream Red Hat Enterprise Linux. The people at Red Hat look at those changes. There's a Jira ticket that's made for it that they have internally. Their engineering management validates it. They check whether it applies to them. They check whether they want to care about it. For example, when Butterfest went by default in Fedora, I promise you that on the Red Hat side, the ticket was created and they said, well, we don't care, so closed.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I wasn't aware of how... I knew they're obviously great for, like, keeping things documented, right? I wasn't aware of the, like, importance that was placed upon them, though.
And this is all, like, this being able to do it if Fedora change is then replicated into a rel change evaluation.
Mhm.
In the beginning, I believe this was actually done by cloning the Red Hat Bugzilla bug that's associated with the Fedora change.
I see.
Now, since they use Jira, they have to do it slightly differently, but it's a thing.
Well, hopefully that was informative, I guess. Yeah. Probably should be ending off because I actually do.
So.
I probably do need to run in a little bit. Anyway, let the people know where they can find you. You're gonna be. I don't know by the time when this comes out, but you're gonna be like in many places over the year. I know you're at 2 places this month. I don't know if there's anything you want to mention that has been made public already that's not like instantly this week.
So I will be at Texas Linux Fest later this week, which I suspect you're not going to publish this in time for that.
No, probably not.
I will be at Linux Fest Northwest at the end of this month. It might be in time for that. I don't know if I believe that
my backlog's pretty big, but I might rearrange stuff. I don't know. We'll see.
And then I will be at Red Hat Summit the following week. And then I will be at LSF. Damn it! This is a long LSF BPF. What is this called? Linux Storage File System Memory Management and BPF Summit, which is an invite-only event, but like I will be there too, and that's right after Red Hat Summit. And then following that, I'm making plans for the back half of the year, and I think one of that is going to be DevConf CZ in the Czech Republic in June, and the OpenSUSE conference as well at the end of June. And beyond that, I haven't figured out what it's going to look like. So I'm going to be at those conferences for the next few months. Of course, I have my website, royalgeekworld.com, or you can go to neal.gompa.dev. It'll just take you there. I am on the socials of the Fediverse. I am also in the threads. I am I guess that technically means I'm in the Instagram too, but I don't really look at that.
When I went to neal.gompa.dev, it said your connection is not private.
Oh god, I need to. So like the setup with that is dumb. I have to manually renew the Let's Encrypt certificate, which is annoying. So I need to do that. But royalgeekworld.com should work. That one's actually like maintained by GitHub, so it's okay. So after that, and then of course, what else? I would say the other avenues really is bug Brody until I show up again.
yeah, that usually works pretty well.
Apparently, I live rent free in your head, according to many people.
It's look when I dig through issue trackers, you just show up, so it's pretty hard to get you out of it.
Yeah, well, like the number of times people send me clips of you, apparently complaining about me existing.
That's why I put it in the April Fool's video, because I thought it was funny.
That actually did make me laugh. I was very amused. It was like, there are no Linux. These are not Linux users. No. Neal is a Linux user. I cracked up. That was phenomenal. The only thing that kind of broke me a little was that you did the FBI thing. I was like, wait, but you're in a Commonwealth country and you don't have an FBI, so this doesn't make sense. I realize not many people actually understand that you live in Oz.
There are
and
people
so
who
it
think
works,
I live in America. Yeah.
I mean, you should, but you don't.
I actually, fun thing. I was just randomly talking on Twitter, and Christian Scheller, who does follow me, I don't know when he started following for some reason, he actually referenced like the me being paid by Wayland. I was like, that's amusing.
You're being paid by Big Wayland.
Yeah, I'm being paid by Red Hat.
Know who the Big W is. I would love to know where the Big W gets its money from.
Oh my god, I should. So there was a.
You didn't do that. I was so mad.
No, there was a retail store in Australia called Big W. I didn't even think of that.
You're so bad at this.
I am. Anyway, anything else you want to mention?
And also, Let's see. Yeah, so I'm primarily available on the Fediverse, on
Okay.
Fosstodon, as well as on Threads.
Mhm.
Those are the main places I think people can reach out to me.
Mhm.
And then, of course, I have my business, where if you want to have some consulting with me to talk about architecture, open source things, or whatever, my business, Velocity Limitless, is a thing, velocitylimitless.com. Check it out.
Mhm.
And then I think, oh, yes, and if you like the stuff that I do and the open source work I do, you can also sponsor me on GitHub.
Mhm.
So github.com/sponsor/Conan-Kudo.
Awesome.
And there you can, throw me a few bucks a month to help support the fact that I do open source work for nothing.
Mhm.
Uh, and like every little bit helps. All the people that do actually do it, I very much appreciate it. And anyone else who likes the work that I'm doing and the stuff that I do in Fedora and OpenSUSE and KDE and Free Desktop and all these other places, feel that and a Fedora Asahi remix and
Mhm.
things like that. I forgot about Asahi this whole time we were talking. You remember when you asked me all the things? I actually forgot
I
about
think you
Asahi.
mentioned it. I feel like you did.
I mentioned. Oh, I might have, but like, yeah. So like, I kind of roll that up into the Fedora stuff. But like,
Mhm.
yeah, I do all these things, and if you value or benefit or like the stuff that I work on or work with other people on, that is a great way to help me be able to spend more time on it, because
Mhm.
I have to juggle all these other things that I have to deal with because I need money to live.
Yeah. Yeah, that's always
So,
important. Sadly.
I like living.
Yeah, I like living. Yeah, I do as well. Is that all you want to mention? Is that everything? I'm sure you
Uh,
can keep mentioning things all day.
uh, yeah, we could probably keep going, but I think that's actually it.
Okay.
So,
Awesome. As for my stuff, my main channel is Brody Robertson. I do
also,
Linux videos.
everybody loves this.
That's a great shirt. I love it. Main channel is Brody
There's
Robertson. I
there's
do.
only a few of these. Latency sucks.
It
Go
does.
on.
Yes. Linux videos. 6 days a week. I don't know what'll be out. Go check out my explicit sync video. I don't know, that came out today. It'll be like a couple weeks old when this comes out. I've got my gaming channel, Brody on
You've been pumping.
Games. Hmm?
You've been pumping out a lot of videos lately. I'm a little surprised.
There's no more than usual. It's the same number. You just might be getting
Are you
notifications more.
sure?
No, I think you're just getting
Oh my god.
notifications.
Yeah. The recommendation engine is starting to make you show up a lot more.
That's good. Um,
That's a good thing, I
it is.
suppose.
I guess I do upload more on the gaming channel. I don't know if you see those ones. I upload like clips or whatever. Because that's what you
I
do on a
get
gaming
pinged on
channel.
Discord about it every time.
I see. Anytime your name is mentioned, you probably get pinged. Maybe
No,
you're just
I
being
don't.
mentioned
Well,
more. That's why. That's why you know.
that's probably it. That's probably it, actually. People poke me more.
Anyway, I stream twice a week on the gaming channel. I don't know what'll be streaming there. Go check it out. Maybe I'm playing Elden Ring. I don't know. Go over there. If you're listening to the audio version of this, you can find the video version on YouTube at Tech Over Tea. If you want to see the audio, you can find that on basically any podcast platform. There is an RSS feed. I found out there's like a Fediverse podcast index, so like check out that as well. Yeah.
Are you set up on that?
I'm automatically on it. Like I didn't do anything, so I guess.
Oh, well, okay.
I think it's just
Yeah, well, there's the podcasting 2.0 stuff, and then there's the RSS to activity pub replication stuff. There's a bunch of random stuff around this.
yeah. You'll find me in places. Anyway, I'll give you the final word. What do you want to say?
Fedora KDE is the best. Go grab it with Fedora 40.
Do that. See you guys later.